Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Upsurge Premier League. We've got the lower round finals, the semifinals between 100 Thieves next and Radiance today. I am Caster Audio. Joining me is Rebel Fox to bring you this amazing game.
Yeah, it couldn't be more exciting. Two of the best teams that we have across all of the scouting grounds, and even better, we get a couple of new players here for 100 Thieves that I'm more excited to see play some of their first games.
Yeah, super big news. Anybody that's watching amateur is going to pick up on this. Kenvi and Tenacity, two of the best players that we've had in the amateur scene in a hot minute, have moved up to academy. So stepping in is going to be Fallen Bandit, their coach in the top lane. Most notably, he's been around the scene for a long time. He's been in CLG, he's been in academy for a while. And then NXI going to be stepping in to fill Kenvi's shoes, a tall order. And we don't have a lot of information on this guy.
Yeah, I haven't really seen if he's had a lot of competitive play, especially among the scouting ground circuit the last few years, but seems like an incredible player. He plays the Nidalee and the Lee Sin really, really well. So I'm excited to see the prospect of watching what is effectively a brand new talent come in, especially this late into a season against an opponent like Radiance.
And I'm really glad that 100 Thieves Next is willing to put in that new talent, even this late into the scouting ground circuit. This entire organization, they wanted to be the team that was going to start to train up young talent. Now, having this new jungler in alongside Fallen Bandit, a super veteran voice, I think this is a good place for him to show us what he's got. Obviously, though, when the person before you was Kenvi, it's really hard to follow that up.
Not to mention, coming this late into the season, you're not playing off against some of the teams that might be a little easier to transition against. This is a Radiance, and this is a surging Radiance. In this late season, they've been absolutely taking names all over the place, and their late dominance has been fantastic. Some of the drafting issues might need to get patched up here and there, but this has been an exciting scene to track. So this is kind of a trial by fire here for Fallen Bay and NXI in their first series here with 100 Thieves.
Do or die right here, right now. And I'm sure Radiance is just jumping for joy right now that they don't have to play off against Tenacity and Kenvi. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen, though. I mean, we had last week where 100 Thieves, they dropped to a new, and I think that shocked everybody a little bit. Definitely going to be a fire under their bus right now to try to prove that they still belong at the top of the table. But honestly, with such a core part of their roster being swapped out so late into the season, I almost am looking at this like a new team. I don't really have any preconceptions going into this game of how it's going to play out. So I'm super excited to just see what 100 Thieves next has for it.
Yeah, when you're trying to replace a player that some people consider Terminator because of how dominant that the man
No,
is, there's going to be at least a little space to open with NXI. But I do think some of that comes back to okay, you've got Copy in the mid lane, you've got Yeon in the bot lane, you've got Auto at support, and they've got to step up just a little bit more in those positions to cover for some of the new things that we're seeing from the team. Some of the newer players or players that we've seen before, like Fallen Bandit, that maybe don't have the competitive experience that the whole roster had throughout the season.
Exactly. And NXI, looking at his champion pool, he still does like playing that very aggressive style. We see a lot of the Nidalees, the just aggressive in your face junglers. The Lee Sin is super up there too. So I think his champion pool aligns with the team's goal and how they've been playing over the season. It's just if they're going to be able to continue their same play style with these new players, or if they're going to decide to swap it up a little bit, because there's obviously going to be some synergy issues between the rest of the squad, especially when a jungler gets replaced.
Yeah, and especially with a champion pool that looks, not completely minimalized, but certainly lesser than what we'll see from other junglers. When you've only really got the Lee Sin and the Nidalee as priorities, especially when you're on blue side here for 100 Thieves, you're gonna have some issues. And Radiance really needs to know, unless they're really willing to give away something like that Lee Sin or like that Nidalee to a jungler that will get comfort on it. I think that there might be some issues potentially finding that jungle pool. We know he goes to AP junglers, Gragas, Echo, things like that. I wouldn't be shocked to see him go to something more comfortable as best he can early on here.
Yeah, coming into the draft though, a couple quick bans from Radiance really targeting that support pool. We don't see a lot of the typical red side bans. Instead, it's the Karma, the Senna, and the Zoe as 100 Thieves locks in that Graves after banning Karthus, Wukong, and LeBlanc.
Really interesting. Getting a very high priority jungler, and of course, it's not the Lee Sin, it's not the Nidalee, but it's a very good jungler for him. Something he plays a little bit in solo queue, and of course, its overall strength as a champion is not to be questioned whatsoever. I'm interested to see what NXI can do with this Graves pick.
It will be exciting. Radiance hovering that Syndra for their first pick. A bit of a flex, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them go right back to the Volibear. This champion has not only been their bread and butter, but just such a staple in the competitive meta for so long now.
And for Engo, I mean, I don't think I've seen Engo really dominantly lose a laning phase whatsoever on the Volibear. He's so apt at the champion that I'm not shocked to see them prioritize that. And then the Cinder comes out not only as a takeaway from Young Mid, but also we've seen people, especially it's Wolfie that was on Maryville, take this Syndra and neutralize what would be a LeBlanc lane out of a Young Mid that is just so ridiculously dominant. So this is Radiance expecting, or my apologies, getting that for Young Mid. I was a little mixed up there for a second. But Young Mid grabbing that champion, super dominant on it all season. I wouldn't put it on the level that the LeBlanc has popped up, but certainly something he feels great on.
Ezreal Twisted Fate locked in for 100 next. This is going to offer them a lot of mobility, a lot of skirmishing powers. We see a lot of ADC still on the table. The Aphelios, the Kalista, a lot of these strong power picks, the Ashe on the table too. 100 Thieves, though, wanting a bit more safety for their bot laner.
I'm curious, Kalista seems like an Andy Bendy type champion. It allows him to press that ultimate and throw Cal into the midst of his team. It's one of his better champions, plays it a ton in solo queue, and we haven't seen it most of the season. He tends to pull it out a little bit more sparingly. It does get kind of a little bit banned out in certain circumstances, but still an insanely solid champion, especially to play a little bit to the early game. With like Graves and Ezreal as your carries on the side of 100 Thieves, the early game is a bit more exploitable. So now you're looking to take advantage of that with Andy Bandy on the bottom side of the map.
What is he going to pair it with, though? The Braum already being banned out. We saw double support bans for Radiance. Definitely winding up for a first pick support for them. You still see some of the aggressive things like the Leona on the table. And you're looking for champions that you can just chuck in there with the Kalista ultimate and create a lot of havoc.
I'm curious if they're able to ban out Set here, if they feel comfortable with that, or even the Thresh maybe here, depending on what they're looking for. No, actually, yeah, they're going to pitch the pool of Fallen Bandit a little bit, making sure that Kennen is off the board, one of his better champions and one of the team fighting champions that's starting to creep into the meta. Also not terrible into the likes of Volibear because it's its own potential. And as you said, also, what do you pair with this? I don't think Pecan is a terrible ban, but there are other supports at the moment that do kind of counteract it. I don't think Set is a terrible option. It's really, really good for the early game with Kalista, but it's a little bit contingent on what we see in the support role here for 100 Thieves as well. So there might be a balancing act here with Radiance where if they don't feel anything is comfortable to blind pick with Kalista, they just wait and they take something here for their jungle position when they already see what they've got.
I love that Fallen Bandit is still grabbing the Kennen bans. Seen so many highlight clips of him just popping off in that champion. The Pantheon, I love this. If you're looking to try to punish a squishy but mobile lane, the point and click CC just cannot be beat. Pantheon and Kalista is a powerhouse duo.
And there's very little that kind of beats the Pantheon in the laning phase as a champion, and especially as the duo with Kalista. This goes along with that early game dominance. It's kind of slipped into the role of something like the Set was a little bit earlier, but it's got a lot more early game pressure. It doesn't scale quite as well depending on the player, the champion. So 100 Thieves already going back to Tahm Kench Ezreal. That was a staple a little while back because of the absolute safety, but they need a ton of it with the likes of Kalista Pantheon in this early game.
This almost feels like 100 Thieves are a bit nervous to me. Picking the Ezreal Tahm Kench, you're really going to be putting a lot of resources into the top half of the map. Locking in this gangplank with some scaling. I'm a little worried about their tools in the early to mid game and what they're going to be able to do up against this just damage stacked Radiance composition with the global from Pantheon, all the damage and burst from Syndra and Kalista. They're definitely going to be trying to wait this one out as long as possible.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the flex to come through here. It looks like, yeah, they were waiting on the counter pick, ready to flex Volibear into that jungle position. It's not something I've really seen them do all that often, but I'm happy to see them finally get a great pick here for Engo, and he grabs this Gnar pick. I know Fallen Bandit, I remember back in the day when he was in Academy on CLG, Gangplank was one of those picks that he kind of made his name on alongside that Kennen. Really good scaling, really great mechanics in the laning phase, and now playing it into Gnar. They were ready with that flex of Volibear into the jungle to be able to put Engo onto something that he really, really enjoys.
Two great compositions set up for both squads here. I'm liking Radiance's just a little bit more, though. It feels like they've got a lot of great tools when it comes to skirmishing around the jungle, and the Pantheon, for me, is the star. The fact that you have the combination of a phenomenal laning phase, the point and click CC, and the global pressure on top of it really just makes the perfect storm. And I really want this Pantheon to pop off. It's always such a treat when you get to watch a Pantheon really show you something special.
Well, when you look, I think especially if you take a wholesome look at Radiance's comp into what 100 Thieves brings, well, like, what CC do you have on 100 Thieves for early game? You got, like, Twisted Fate Gold card. And yeah, you've got a bunch of damage in Graves, Gangplank, Twisted Fate, Ezreal, Twisted Fate, not so much, but the scaling is there. But the problem is setting up a team fight is looking a little bit rough for them. They're going to be really heavily relying on Copy's ability to neutralize mid lane against the likes of Young Mid, already a tough prospect, and then roaming to the side lanes alongside the Gangplank ultimate, maybe alongside NXI, joining on that side. But I do not expect early game dominance at all. In fact, I would be a little bit afraid for them to step even a little bit past the river, given the fact that Radiance's composition is a lot more early based in terms of its damage and CC. And if that kind of early game train rides away for Radiance, this could be a tough late game and mid game here for 100 Thieves.
And talking about those team fights, the later the game goes on, all Radiance has to do is pick up a QSS or two onto Syndra and Callista. Then all of a sudden, you've completely negated the one engage tool that 100 Thieves really have in their belt in that Twisted Fate Gold card. So it's going to come down to some really great positioning and some really great vision control to find a lot of these isolated picks and try to snowball objectives off of that, I guess. But I agree with you. The 100 Thieves game plan, it's looking a little bit rough. It's going to be some pretty high execution required to pull this off.
100%. And not to mention, I mean, I guess if I were 100 Thieves right here, I would be looking to 1-3-1 with the likes of Twisted Fate and Gangplank, because they've got some global ultimates to work with. They can collapse pretty quickly with things like the Gangplank ultimate, the Twisted Fate ultimate. But Radiance has that up their own. If they play 1-3-1, I don't think the Gnar and the Syndra do particularly bad. They don't usually win those side lanes, at least in most circumstances. But the Pantheon makes those side lane plays really scary. You have to be quick on the trigger finger with Twisted Fate or Gangplank to support that side lane play if they're going to run like that. And I think that is the best option here for 100 Thieves composition, is to spread the map out and don't let this powerful engage composition from Radiance take full effect. But again, when it comes to that early game dominance here, I want to see what Radiance can kind of flex to get themselves an advantage so that 1-3-1 isn't as daunting.
Speaking of those globals, looking on the composition now for 100X, they have so much global pressure. Yes, you have the Pantheon who can jump about half a map away, maybe from lane to lane, but you're looking at the Cannon Barrage from Gangplank. He doesn't even have to be there. Twisted Fate with the map-wide teleport, and then Tahm Kench, who could just bring himself plus a buddy to any fight he should so choose. If you can pull off that 1-3-1, you can really turn the tides of a fight very quickly, where Radiance thinks they're engaging on one member and all of a sudden they're fighting four.
Yeah, I mean, the guerrilla tactics are how 100 Thieves could potentially walk away with an early game lead. The big problem, though, is if you're playing reactively to something for 100 Thieves, you have to play into the likes of Callista Rend, Pantheon full combo, Syndra ultimate, things of that sort that are so bursty that even if you get a Tahm Kench and a Twisted Fate ultimate, pull 4 members to one lane at a time, you're probably still not going to have a pure advantage unless you catch them completely off guard. If Radiance is running 3 to a lane or something, they will kill somebody fast enough to where those reinforcements, they might just be coming into the fight a little bit too late. That's my fear here. So 100 Thieves X, they have to keep honest in the early game. They have to know where they can apply pressure with these semi-globals, things of that sort, so that they don't have to worry about responding, because if Radiance is on the front foot, it could be in trouble for them.
Absolutely could. 100 Thieves have a lot of eyes on them right now, as they lost 2 of the biggest prospects in North American amateur scene in Tenacity and Kenvi, but going to be looking to finish off the season strong as the coach and new jungler NXI step in to take their place. Radiance, though, as you said, they've been on the up and up, and they're here to prove once and for all that they deserve a spot at the top. We're going to go to a very short break while these players get into the game. Don't go anywhere. The game 1 of this best of 5 is coming up soon.
Started with a vision. A vision of quality, a vision of uniformity.
We took the time to create something familiar yet refreshing, something with a bit of change.
Designed to fit any brand's unique vision.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope we didn't keep you waiting too long. Everybody got their snacks, their drinks. Buckle up. This is going to be a hell of a series. 5 games, well, best of 5, between 100 Thieves and Radiance. And I'm just loving what we see already in this game, number 1. Pantheon support. We've got Fallen Bandit on the gangplank. I couldn't have really asked for much more, except a not Tom Kench. Anything but Tom Kench.
I don't think anybody really likes to see the Tom Kench all that much. But in fairness, at least, I mean, Radiance, they were not unprepared. They're ready to turn up the heat already in game number 1 against the team we talked about that has 2 subs. They want to battle test them already and see if they can get this this little bit of a check going. And again, their composition is strong. Their team fighting's pretty strong. They've got a lot going for them. It's going to take quite a bit from 100 Thieves to grab this game number 1.
But the stars of the team and the stars of this composition are Andy, Bendy, and Cow down there in the bot lane. The Callista Pantheon should have a very easy time in this lane against an Ezreal plus Tom Kench. Yes, you cannot kill them, but they are not really going to do anything to you either. So I'm looking for Andy Bendy to walk out of this with a large CS lead or more. And that's, going to be up to Avi and NXI to, really decide how big that lead is going to be.
I think at minimum, if you get out of the lane and you are at least relatively, even if not slightly ahead in terms of farm, and you've gotten all bottom side objectives, so you've gotten all the dragons 2, the first 3, something along those lines before the scaling starts to come through from Ezreal, you can consider that to be like the average. That's the minimum that they need to accomplish with this strong bottom lane. And as you said, you want to see them get a lot more. But as long as they get those things, they can win the game off the back of the early pressure they've got.
Fallen Bandit showing why he is known for this gangplank. Level 1 taking it to the counter pick. Ends up to be an even trade, but since Fallen Bandit has all those potions in inventory, he'll be able to heal that up really quickly.
You gotta love that like level 1 check that some gangplanks like to do. That's a lot of them in SGC that love to do. I think Niles really does it more than anybody else. But anytime you see the gangplank, you have to be ready for the passives, the Qs to come out, and all of that early game trading to be just absolutely there to get the health bar off of your opponent. And as you said, with those potions, you have your corrupting's now gone for Fallen Bandit, but Engo is sitting with half a health bar, with the only regeneration being from that Doran shield. This is a pretty good position for Fallen Bandit, especially if he can bounce this wave off the tower. You're going to put Gnar in the middle of the wave right after he transforms back to Mini with Graves on the top side of the map.
Yep, and he has his jungler coming through to back him up. Those biscuits also going to be helping him sustain throughout the lane. Now level 3s. We'll see where the junglers decide to go. We already have Cow roaming up into the mid lane to possibly look for a 3-man dive into mid. But more than likely, he's just walking up to help his jungler check on these camps.
It's not particularly easy to gank a Twisted Fate. I know with a Pantheon and a Volibear, it makes it quite a bit easier. At least the prospect is quite a bit easier. But that's kind of the whole intention behind grabbing it, is that it neutralizes the laning phase for just about any champion. It doesn't matter if you're playing Syndra or LeBlanc or Zed or anything of the sort. Twisted Fate is usually pretty safe, able to wave clear and maintain a steady thing. You don't have the late game scaling in terms of damage that you do with something like a Syndra, but you always have the utility of the gold card. The roaming in the early game should help you get your team ahead. There's plenty of strengths, and one of them is, of course, its safety.
And sometimes that utility can be even stronger than the damage itself. You already got lots of damage coming through from your double ADC. Copy looking for that gold card. Thanks to that roam up from Cal, though, they did know that NXI had cleared out most of his red side jungle. Now back on the map, a cleanse burnt from Young as NXI just walks into the mid lane and Copy lands that gold card.
Actually really important, I think. To be able to grab that cleanse with just a single auto attack here from Copy is rather important, because if there's a return gank from NXI, you almost have to flash immediately if you're Young mid to make sure you don't tank that auto and then get a full combo from the Graves and the Twisted Fate early. It makes your life a little bit more difficult to try to manage here if you're Young mid. You do have your range to work with, but of course you have to be a little fearful of the all-in here.
Engo going all in on Fallen Bandit, but Avi was just sitting there clearing a ward, so they're just going to force him back onto the turret and allow this to crash. Heal burnt from Andy now as Cow had to go back to base. He was such low health bar after freezing that wave. So I do like the aggression here from Jan and Otto, not relying on the safety of their picks and still trying to put some aggression into this lane.
Yeah, what happened was when the roam had come out from Cal, his movement out of lane allowed for the Ezreal and the Tahm Kench to work their way up into Andy Bendy, which forced it back out of Andy Bendy. And then Cal tries to hold the lane, they force aggression into him, and then once he leaves, he backs again. Then you've got Andy Bendy back in the lane alone. They're able to use this kind of proxy system to make sure Andy Bendy
Oh
has never
no.
really has the lane partner. To take
And now
advantage.
they've caught Jan alone. He's going to
Really
find
nice.
the stun. Ignite comes through. They want to go for the dive. They get the flash, and they're going to back out. One summoner for one. You'll trade that Ignite for flash any day of the week. Copy. Young is level 6, but he already uses ultimate. Copy is solo,
Ultimate?
goes in for the gold card. No cleanse available. And NXI, the new blood, is able to pick up the first kill.
And not expecting that whatsoever, Young Mid comes in with an all-in that puts so much damage onto the likes of Copy, but he trades back a little bit. He'll lose about half the health bar to just the minion wave. And as you get back into the minutia of it, of course, Copy, he planned it out, knew he had the health bar to work, and then the flash comes out instantly. Wow, top lane, though.
Great flash, and now Engo, he's about to be in a 1v3. He's just going to try to flash over the wall. Isn't able to do it. NXI is going to follow, pick up his second of the game. A great start to the game from the new jungler filling in for Kenvi.
And fantastic use of their composition as we see it already. This is how they need to try to win some of the early game duels. You put a number of champions, an outnumber of champions specifically, into any lane, and you can win with the amount of damage, especially if Copy joins, because he has the CC to work with. A little bit of motion mid lane, but he should be fine. He does have Ghost, and he's going to have to pop it probably.
Avi going in. He's not able to find the final stun. Good gold card there from Copy to keep himself safe. And that Ghost plus what is most likely, I think he's running Celerity. It just gives you so much movement speed. It's
That it does.
ridiculous.
Yeah, Nimbus Cloak with Unsealed Spellbook is absolutely ridiculous on pretty much any champion you can imagine, and Twisted Fate makes such good use of it because of it. You already seen it. You know, the number of summoner spells. He already used the TP to get top lane to be able to make that play against Engo and be able to set that up for the likes of Fallen Bit and NXI. Then immediately ults back mid lane to be able to catch his wave and not have to worry about Young Mid shoving that in. Really, really good motion from Coffee already on the likes of the Twisted Fate, taking some early advantage for himself.
Somewhere out there, a Rammus player is getting very jealous of how fast Copy is moving right now. Right now, though, this bottom lane isn't going as well for Radiance as they might have hoped coming into this draft phase. It is just a 3 CS lead for Andy Bendy. Jan and Otto have put up a hell of a fight down here.
I think it's just, again, there's very little kind of danger, really, to the Ezreal and the Tahm Kench. And then you've had quite a bit of roaming with Cal, which has put Andy Bendy on a little bit of a back foot. I still think there's plenty of aggression to come through from this lane if they wanted to, but they might need a bit of motion from Avi. I do think the Volibear would really help catalyze this bot lane to making sure that you can utilize the Kalista and Pantheon early game. And it might be, especially with the way so far that Eon and Otto have been playing, I think that's almost going to be necessary to ensure that they can make something happen.
Now Avi up on the top side, taking the Rift Herald. Engo has a lot of lane pressure right now, so he feels safe to do so. Really good objective control these first couple minutes. A flash over the wall, though, and Jan just gets deleted. No flash, no time to respond. And now Avi has to run away from NXI. Does secure the Herald, though. So that is an early Dragon plus an early Herald going over to Radiance.
Yeah, quite a bit snuck right there somehow from the side of Radiance. They're able to get the Rift Herald on top side with Avi, and somehow they make a play on bottom side. In vision, Yeon is backing in that bottom side river. Fantastic flash from Cal immediately puts him into position for himself and for Andy Bendy to be able to capitalize onto that. Really, really well
The
played.
portal combat, let's go. Cal needs one more auto attack. There's the Devour. Spits him back out. It's level 5 to level 6. And Otto is... Oh god, only thing worse than seeing a Tahm Kench in a game is seeing a Tahm Kench 1v1 a Pantheon. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, he's supposed to just be this kind of soak of damage, be able to protect your ADC, especially something like Ezreal. It's supposed to be mitigation, but unfortunately Cow doesn't see it like that anymore, having the fear, maybe in his nightmares, of Otto running at him with this Tahm Kench, being able to just swallow him whole and get that solo kill.
Definitely smart of Otto, though, knowing he could take that trade. Cow is already half health going into that one after blocking that damage to protect Andy Bendy's recall. And I have seen a lot of mismatched recall timers down here in this bottom lane. It almost feels like there's never 4 players in the lane.
And that's what's kind of helping right now the side of 100 Thieves is that there is mismatch timers really heavily. They haven't seen much pressure. It looks like Avi might be looking for something as well as Young Mid, who's shoved out mid lane now. The ultimate is available for Copy, but if they want to make a play down towards this bottom lane, it will be easy. Again, the dive pressure from Pantheon, from Kalista, you can reset aggro with the Pantheon by throwing
Four-man
that in.
dive coming through. Pantheon goes for the ult. Avi's going to be tanking up the turret just to start. Disables that one after he tanks up 3 or 4 shots. Copy, the last one alive, goes golden to defend from the Syndra ultimate. And you can see the amount of diving tools put to place. Great knockback from the Kalista ultimate, but just not enough damage. Here comes NXI to clean it up on a killing spree. He's able to take down Young. And what started off so cleanly from Radiance turned into disaster.
Yeah, I mean, you have such this strong early game composition so far coming out from the side of Radiance, but everything that they're doing is being read on the map by 100 Thieves right there. They end up getting a 2 for 2, I believe, all things said and done. And even worse, bottom side pressure is now completely held by 100 Thieves. They're going to be able to put NXI on that dragon. Ezreal went mid lane to push that out immediately because Copy was forced to back, and Otto's already in the river, being able to push out Vision. And already, Young Mid is just now coming back. Andy Bendy's just now coming back. They have complete priority over this river. Maybe they can't fight if Radiance decides to force something, but it doesn't look like they will, since Avi and Cal are now looking maybe for a little bit, especially Avi now looking for a reset.
100 Thieves in a very good spot right now, notably NXI 3-0-0 on his debut game with the squad. Now Cal waiting in the bush. Does get spotted out, so he's going to walk backwards. I love that he's just continually going back to this play, though. It feels predictable, but he's gotten a couple of flashes and even a kill off of just camping that one brush.
He has been able to control at least a little bit with the likes of this Pantheon, but his life is not being made easy by this Tahm Kench right now. You saw the solo kill, and of course, even if he jumps onto Yon and be able to get some sort of stun, some sort of combo onto him, it's not even going to matter because of the E coming through from Tahm Kench, especially when heal is up, things of that sort. So far, the early game from Radiance hasn't quite been up to snuff with what I would have expected, given what their composition dictates.
Definitely hasn't been, although Andy Bendy is walking out of lane with 2 kills. Not exactly what we expected, as some of the objectives didn't go their way, but I would still call this more or less a successful lane, especially if they're able to knock down the tier 1 turret here.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you're talking, this isn't really the focus of the early game here for 100 Thieves. They've soaked quite a bit of pressure, but right now, NXI on the Graves is doing a fantastic job. Copy has been all over the map, and Fallen Bandit feels perfectly fine, at least for the moment, into the laning phase. I'm sure I'm going to eat my words as Ingo just continues to batter him with auto attacks, but for the moment, things seem to be okay in the early game. Yes, if you lose bottom tower, that's rough. And you have controlled at least the first dragon, but they lost that Mountain Drake, which will stall the game a little bit longer in favor of the team that's got a lot better late game damage.
You can see Copy already realizing that his team has to take this one late, going for the Rod of Ages first item. Make sure he's got that one stacked up. The first brick will eventually go down for Radiance. They'll be happy to put some more gold into Andy Bendy's pocket and start moving him around the map.
Yeah, and what I would like to see now, a little bit back and forth from everything else, is just that I do think 100 Thieves needs to push the tempo if they want to get out of this early and / mid-game presence with a little bit of semblance of their composition. Because if they turn up the tempo and have all this damage, they can try to pull apart the side of Radiance at the moment. But if they don't do that, they're going to have to sit around, they're going to have to play to objectives, and that's where the strength of the Gnar, that's where the strength of the Volibear, the strength of Kalista ultimates, that all really starts to shine.
That it does. Second Herald spawning here in just about a minute. You can see Radiance really want this one. They've brought all 5 members up to this top half of the map. Nixie gonna go out. There comes a Pantheon dive on top, though. They want to get Fallen Bandit. He's able to put down the ultimate and flash away, but he will get chased down by Avi, who flashes to follow. Now, 2 members caught behind enemy lines. Cow and Avi, can they get out? Otto's gonna flash follow over the wall. One more lick will do it. He gets gobbled up, and Nixie's on a rampage. Now, chasing down Otto. Seems like that's all they're going to get. Honestly, though, just such a heads-up play. You can see the rotations coming through so quickly with a teleport from the Ezreal and using those globals that they have. 100 Thieves are still able to keep control. And they might want a little bit more. Engo is so low. The flash forward. Oh, just barely not hitting him. Those last couple skill shots going wide. Looks like they're going to try to take down Andy Bendy as a consolation prize. Big shutdown going into Nixie's pocket. And now Avi, he's just going to ult in to die. Yawn is going to get gobbled up. Great scatter of the week, though, is going to catch him. Auto goes golden in such a funny position. Young picking up the double kill. Back and forth, tit for tat from these two squads. It's a bloodbath. But it is going to be 100 Thieves coming out slightly ahead in that one.
For Radiance to be able to try to ramp their early game pressure with a tower dive was really smart, and somehow they found Fallen Band after an amazing orange, but they pressed so hard on top side they weren't ready, as you said, for those globals to come through. The teleport from the Ezreal, the Tahm Kench coming, Copy being able to warp in, and even worse is they attempted that play as a way to either get some top tower pressure, but more specifically for that Rift Herald, and nobody now grabs it because of the play that had come out from 100 Thieves. They might have overstayed slightly, getting the kill against Avi, costing a couple of kills to go over to Youngmin, but it's not all that much in a kind of retrospect. They're keeping the gold even, they're keeping objectives relatively even between the two teams, and they're playing this composition very well, and it's out of necessity. They needed this composition to play at a high standard, and they're certainly playing up to it at the moment.
Oh, anybody, he spotted a catfish, and he's going fishing. Hook, line, and sinker. Otto's gonna fall, and just before the dragon spawns, that might give Radiance an edge over the river. Engo's gonna shove this wave in. Young is gonna do the same in mid after chunking out Yawn. And it actually seems like Radiance, they're gonna switch it up. They're gonna go straight for the Herald. Cow gets chunked out hard, though, at the start of it. Man, Nixie has so much damage. You can see the Umbral Glaive there completed, gonna give them so much vision control as well as just that upfront burst.
I think it was a little bit of a macro mistake. I know maybe they were trying to get a little bit tricky with their positioning, thinking, oh, we've got 5 members and we already have control of bottom river, but if we move up to Rift Herald, we have the numbers advantage to take it. But as you said, the damage onto Cow and other members coming into that Rift Herald play does force them off. So now they're just going to use Avi, Andy Bendy, claim this dragon that should have been theirs a little bit ago when they got that kill on the bottom side for Auto, and then they're going to be able to walk away with their hands at least a little bit clean of mistakes that could have been made. If they force for that Rift Herald, they probably end up losing a little bit, if not quite a bit in trade, but instead they grab the dragon, they take the safe play, and they walk away.
And I gotta say, man, I was very skeptical about Nixie coming into this game, just considering the shoes that he has to fill in what some people believe is one of the best players we've seen in amateur in quite a while. But he is having an incredible performance. He's mashing in farm, but he's up 5 kills, and it just always feels like he has the right read on where he needs to be.
Oh yeah, for a composition, especially with a Gangplank and then an Ezreal Tahm Kench side lane, he's playing immaculately. I don't know how you find 5 kills with 2 assists as a Graves with a composition with no CC. I think part of that is due to, A, as you said, Nixie playing the map really well, understanding his positioning really well, knowing where he needs to be. Part of that's also on Copy. Copy's ability to get around the map has been amazing this game as well. He's been around for the majority of the plays, majority of the kills, and those two, that was kind of the whole point I wanted to make in the early game. Copy has to step up. Yawn, Auto have to step up as players, and so far Copy's been playing really well to the style of Nixie here, and that's showing in a lot of the score lines and a lot of the gameplay.
Absolutely agree. Now, Andy Bendy coming up to the top side. Like they're going to give the top lane turret one more go around. Nixie not in the area, but they still do have the gameplay ultimate. Ow, he's just going to get chunked out as he just walks through the turret. Andy Bendy's going to have to ult him in. There comes the cannon barrage. Andy Bendy's going to start taking that one up. The turret's disabled, but Avi's getting focused down. The health bars are melting. One is going to trade back, but now Young has arrived on the backhand. It's going to be a 3 for 2, this time in favor of 100 Thieves. They're looking to make it 4 as Engo's going to fall. And it's another dive attempt, another team fight win for 100 Thieves. And Radiance, they've got the aggression, but they don't got the execution right now.
Yeah, they're picking good places on the map to attack, but they're not able to make them happen fast enough. It seems like 100 Thieves, even when they're in a really bad situation, right there, Jan was underneath his tower by himself. Tom Kench was not really anywhere near, and Cow had him surrounded. He couldn't really even E or unless he burns his flash as well. Wasn't going to be able to get out of that situation, but unfortunately, Cow takes so much free damage by just walking into tower range. He ends up buying a lot of space for Otto to walk back up for the rest of the team to respond, and ends up almost costing a little bit of pressure onto that topside dive. We're going to see a little bit of a replay of that situation. You see, of course, during the start count, they're right there. He throws the shield up, but he's already lost half his health bar. They end up throwing the ultimate to try to get aggression, but by this point, Otto's already here and has the ability to save him, and then the rest of the team arrives. Yes, you have what is, I believe it's a 4-on-5 here in this situation, but somehow 100 Thieves, they soak so much pressure. Look how long it took Fallen Bandit to fall in the fight, and they end up trading multiple members here. And Otto's, or Copy, my apologies, his presence in this fight was immaculate. All of the cards coming out, all of the CC for this team, being able to find a couple of kills underneath this tower and finding the kill.
And it's so disappointing because Radiance, more than any team, should be able to dive turrets effectively. They've got the Ohm Wrecker with Volibear. They've got the immunity with Pantheon. There's so many diving tools to reset aggro and get into these turrets, but they're not using them in the right order. You saw Cow burn his E at the very start of the fight. Then Avi jumped in, but Andy Bendy had already tanked 3 turret shots. By the time Avi does disable it, he hasn't tanked anything yet. So I really love the composition and the aggression, the playstyle that Radiance is trying to go for, but you gotta put the pieces in the right order. You gotta have Avi tank the turret, then disable it, then Cow drops or gets aggro, blocks it with his E, Andy Bendy pulls him out with the ultimate. If you can get that combo down, the turret's not gonna do any damage to you.
And this comes back to, once again, fast execution coming through from Radiance. Actually, it looks like a bottom lane dive is going to come through.
Yeah, there's nothing Andy Bendy can do as Fallen Bandit hops over the wall, but we'll see if Radiance can avenge their fallen ADC. Cow takes way too much damage before he's able to get that immunity off. And now Otto has brought in the cavalry behind the team. Nixie is going to grab the shutdown onto Young, another fat stack of cash in his pocket. And Avi, the last remaining member of Radiance, he's going to try to clear out the waves to buy himself the space to work with. But I've got a feeling he might be going down soon as well. That's how you tank a turret, Radiance. Take notes. Otto's going to take up 4 or 5 shots, but Avi with the flash does eventually get away.
This is incredible, and you get to watch this play from start to finish as we have yet another replay coming in here as the side of course, Radiance or 100 Thieves go to the Dragon. You're going to see a bot lane dive onto the likes of Andy Bendy. He's so strong, Copy, and this is the speed they need to operate on with Radiance, and even better, the Gnar comes in here ready to fight, but the flash away by Copy actually puts him into a good position. So far, Cal has just been a soak of all of this damage, hasn't really accomplished much. Engo goes into mini form after coming in, not really landing all too much, and Youngmin and him get stuck in this really awkward position between towers where they end up getting run down by Nixie, who gets behind, by Otto, who gets behind. And yes, Avi gets the fantastic trade onto Fallen Bandit, but that doesn't matter. The play has already been completely lost off the back of this phenomenal execution of these globals coming through from 100.
Hang on, though. Back to life. Fallen Bandit getting caught out. It's just going to be a quick runaway into the waiting jaws of Otto, and he will get out safely. That's got to be the most frustrating thing in the game. When you catch somebody out so clearly, and then Tom Kench just says, "Nah, don't worry, I got you."
It's that's been kind of the highlight of the whole game. Is that Radiance has this composition that can they can have a lot of CC. They've got a good amount of burst damage, but they've never been able to execute fast enough to get the definitive kills. Be it Nixie, be it Copy, be it Eon, because of their. I mean, you talk about the oranges from the likes of Gangplank, the flat stats you get from dashing on the likes of the Graves and the dash itself. And then, of course, the Tom Kench making your life so difficult to get these fast kills out. Oh, my goodness.
God, Nixie just has no fear right now. Fallen Bandit in a 2v2 Copy will not get there in time, as the top laner will go down for the 4th time this game. Hasn't had the greatest performance on the Gangplank, but in his defense, Radiance have tried really, really hard to dive him as many times as humanly possible. So the fact that he only has 4 deaths is honestly pretty impressive.
That it is. The number of dives he took in the early game, and then even being the gangplank without a lot of ridiculous escapability outside of your orange being able to cleanse CC. You talk about that being the main reason why the gangplank has been hard. Not to mention contributions to the team. I mean, you're talking wave clear, really high from the gangplank when you get into the 2-3 item mark, and then even beyond. Ultimate helps with that global pressure. You drop it onto wherever copy's going to join, and that means they're not going to be able to walk away from the stun. They're going to be stuck in that ultimate, or they have to burn a summoner spell or a flash, something along those lines to get out. Really, really important that the gangplank has further value than simply just being a damage dealer in this one.
Ooh, NXI might be caught out here. Abby's able to stun him before he goes over the wall. That is a lot of gold. You would have liked to see that go towards a Syndra or a Callista, but I think Cal's still going to be happy with an extra 1,000 in his pockets.
Going to be able to get him at least to a finished second item and hopefully some armor magic resist. Maybe that Gargoyle Stone Plate going to be completed afterwards. It was a good catch. It looked almost like... Oh, we actually dive in mid lane here.
Yeah, they're going to keep going. There you go. Avi disabling the turret. Otto's going to finally fall. A shutdown this time going to Callista. And now Andy Benny going to continue the chase. The cleanse from Cow to keep it up going. Copy, you've only got one gold card, but ooh, going golden might just save him as Fallen Bandit is a great cannon barrage to buy him enough space to move. Now Radiance, they are on full retreat. Gangplank's coming for him. Oh my goodness, Young presses the outplay button. And now he's going to be looking for another copy, bobbing and weaving between the spheres. And it looks like that might be all 100 Thieves is going to get. Radiance, they might want a little bit back for themselves. Cow just jumping over the wall. Doesn't quite find Yawn as he arcane shifts to safety. This man is just unstoppable. He arcane shifts once more into the back line. He's going to get stunned up, but a double kill for Yawn. I feel like he did so much more work in that fight, and 100 Thieves are going to pull off the ace.
It's like Radiance always have a perfect idea of what they're looking for every single fight. They're like, here's what we're going to look to do. And then something goes wrong because 100 Thieves is anticipating it or they're ready for the play or something. And then Radiance just has no improvisation. They just completely scramble from that point on. And they lose any semblance of what they could be doing, where they focus should be. And they're just losing all semblance of team fighting whatsoever in that charge. I mean, they're getting punished over and over and over again by these plays. Look at I want to point out that copy stopwatch. It looked like he was caught out and all for dead. I mean, Andy Bendy walked away with fractions of a health bar at best, and the rest of the team gets pushed out because of Fallen Bandit's ultimate saving his mid laner. Really, really good stuff from 100 Thieves and pushes Radiance into this level of uncomfort I haven't seen them be at in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, this is not what we expected when 100 Thieves loses two of their best players, but hold that thought, they might go for another dive. They do force the flash out of Cow, who is now very low under this tier 2 turret. Baron up, minion waves are there, and Copy is godlike. There is no better word to describe the performance this man is putting on right now. Death cap in inventory, he is just smurfing on Radiance.
We've seen all season people, they gas up Tenacity, they gas up the likes of the jungler in Kenby, and they obviously showed it with the promotion. We're going to see another fight here. Nope, never mind. Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, if 100 Thieves step too far, nope, they have a Tom Kench. NXI, though, he's going to be running for his life right now. Cow gets thrown in, but pretty sure he's wishing he wasn't at this point. Andy Bendy, the last remaining member, a triple kill to finish off an amazing game one. 10-0-12. There were 28 kills in this game, and 22 of them Copy participated in. What a dominating statement from 100 Thieves. They might have lost Kenby, they might have lost Tenacity, but damn if they aren't still one of the best teams in Amateur.
Any copiers in the chat after a performance like that? I think maybe that's got to start.
Where's my copy
out.
fan club?
Yeah, where's my copy pasta? How about that? Where's that coming out at in the chat? I want to see that all day because, man.
That is the new official name of Copy's fans, the Copy Pastas.
The Copy Pastas. Let's go. What a performance coming out from them. Again, it was so shocking to see. They played with a level of execution that I would never have expected a team with two substitutes to come in with. Yes, Fallen Bandit was the coach, so maybe I expected to see him and the shot calling really not to fall off. But Nixie went above and beyond expectations, minus that one death where he got called out by like 4 members on Radiance and he got stunned mid-E that would have got him over the wall and saved him. phenomenal stuff from everybody. I cannot believe the level of execution has not dropped here.
Absolutely. I mean, you think about, sure, even if you place Fallen Bandit and NXI up to the same mechanical level of Tenacity and Kenvi, which I don't think is too hard of a stretch, you got to think that there's going to be some synergy issues there. I mean, you're bringing in a brand new jungler, which is almost the core central piece of a squad, replacing Kenvi of all junglers. But this 100 Thieves, they don't look like they've lost any steam whatsoever. You asked for these players to step up. My God, they listened. Copy 10, 0, and 12. It sounds like we have a replay of one of those amazing fights.
Yeah, we're going to get a chance to look at that fight that happened where Copy goes into go. So you see on your screen at the moment, you get Copy goes golden. The ultimate almost kills Andy Bendy, forces him out, and then there's no damage from Copy or from the likes of Avi that are capable. And then you watch as the rest of the fight progresses. They're escaping entirely. And you see Copy, no fear, just teleports immediately to the brow, just finds the initial play. And yes, Young Maid gets a really big kill against Fallen Bandit. But then you have Yeon and Copy just constantly pressuring them with this long range poke, making them stay honest and pushing them into an uncomfortable situation. And that continues. Cal tries to ult in, but this is just going to be to his death because Nixie finds him in a great position. Great, move over the wall from Yeon. But still, again, just kind of corralling them into this top corner, not giving them the option to move around whatsoever. And they picked them off slowly, one by one by one. They tore Radiance's shot calling about just with their all, like I said, it felt improvisational from 100 Thieves, and they were just dominating when those plays kind of went to hell for a Radiance.
Now, coming into this game, you said that Radiance had been on the uptick, but had been struggling with their draft. Do you point to the draft in this game as the problem? Is there something else you would like to see going into this series?
Not at all. I really don't think the draft was the issue. I do think maybe they perhaps underestimated the possibility of 100 Thieves playing really heavily around Niski, and that was really the play. Is bottom lane soaked a ton of pressure early, then you played around Nixie on this Graves, and you had Copy in pretty much every single play, and off the back of those two champions, they were able to just take skirmish after skirmish. You have to have either A, more definitive plays with better winning situations for Radiance, or you have to give them things, or you have to give them setup so that they can make the improvisation. They can make the kind of in the moment actions or reactions to be able to take in situations like that. I think this was more of a sucker punch from 100 Thieves than anything, but that means that coming into the rest of the series, if you're Radiance, you have to know that this is still a possibility. They still came out in game one with this level of strength.
We'll see if Radiance has woken up or if they may need another 1-2 before they actually show up to the fight. 100 Thieves have not slowed down at all. They still look phenomenal with Fallen Bandit coming in and NXI replacing Kenvi. We're going to go another short break as these teams get geared up for game number 2. Please don't go anywhere because this is going to be one hell of a series.
In the sky, gazing far into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you. into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you, for you, for you, for you, for you, for you, for
Told you we'd be back. 100 Thieves versus Radiance. Game number 2. A lot of people were unsure of what to think about 100 Thieves neck coming into this game. They lost their top laner and jungler, 2 powerhouse players in the amateur scene. But with Coach Fallen Bandit stepping in alongside new jungler NXI, whew, was that a sight to behold. The Graves was just dominating. The Twisted Fate was immaculate. Just gold stars all the way across the chart for 100 Thieves in that game number 1. And I'm sure Radiance were just as shocked as we are that this 100 Thieves does not seem to have lost any steam whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'm a little more fearful actually now that we've swapped sides as well, because now, I mean, you don't have to necessarily try to pick something like the Graves first overall, because you could ban it away on the side of 100 Thieves and go to something like Lee Sin or Nidalee that somehow he plays more and arguably better than the Graves. And I can't even imagine what he would do on a Nidalee, given the talent he has on that champion, if that's what we expect to see from something like his Graves.
I mean, it was disgusting. And like you said, he's got a champion pool full of aggressive picks. He's got the Graves, he's got the Nidalee, he's got the Lee Sin. He doesn't have the Trundle. We went through, we could not find a single Trundle game ever.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think this is a player that we're going to have to watch throughout the rest of the series. And if he continues to pop off against Radiance, who has been looking very good, who knows? Maybe we have the next Kemvi on our hands.
Yeah, the next question I suppose would be, when is Nixie getting moved up to Academy, and they're going to find their next jungler beyond anything else. But we do see, of course, 100 Thieves. They came out with a really good game plan. They came out with a tough to execute composition, but it was rather strong. And then now we get to see the response from Radiance, which I think is arguably more important here, because of course Radiance came in as the pure favorite. I think a lot of people thought, especially with those substitutions, that 100 Thieves is going to be weaker. How did they react now, having seen this? I think a game plan they could come to is you have to attack maybe NXI in that jungle position. You have to be able to shut him down. Keep Copy maybe mitigated or kind of relegated more to the mid lane. Try to keep him off of something that he can roam with to help out his lanes. And maybe that's what you're going to go for, more than the lane dominance in bot lane against Yeon and Otto, who have honestly been a staple and a very safe lane, pretty much all split as it is.
Yeah, they definitely have. And now, as we're looking towards game number 2, you said that you liked the draft from Radiance, which in the past has been some of their biggest downsides. They've been able to have strong players, but haven't had the greatest draft. We'll see exactly what they decide to choose this time around. I'm looking at some of the bans. You can already see Twisted Fate taken off the table. I think that one's strong.
Yeah, they're making sure to take that away. Now, in the previous draft, we saw the Zoe, but they're going to be giving either Karma or Senna. If I have to imagine, they're going to ban Senna here if they go back to something like that, because if they want to grab Karma, they could easily flex that potentially across the board into a couple different positions, and that should be fine for them. So I don't expect this to be Karma. If anything, it's Senna. I think you could even make an argument maybe to take a jungler or a mid laner off the board here, and that could be just as strong coming out from the side of Radiance, depending on what you're drafting for.
They do lock in the Syndra, though, so that one's going to be taken away. It is a bit of a flex pick that could go towards Copy or Yawn, but that one's surprising because now we see the Senna on the board, as well as things like the Volibear, the Graves, all the jungle picks, really. So there's a lot of power picks on the table. Radiance, they saw what NXI could do in game number 1. They don't even want to risk having that happen in game number 2. They're thinking of locking in that Graves for themselves.
Do recall, however, that Lee Sin and Nidalee are both still up, with this Graves pick being hovered first. And even better, Radiance is making a little bit of the brain play here. So you get Zoe off the board, you get Twisted Fate, you get Syndra. Copy's banned out, who is arguably their most, the player that had the biggest impact last game. But I do wish to note that their banning of Syndra, combined with the forced ban of Karma on red side, given the fact that they don't want to give that champion away, means LeBlanc is not only available for Young Mid, but the counters to it, things like the Syndra, the Twisted Fate, the Karma, that can neutralize the laning phase, are now off the board. I wouldn't be shocked to see Radiance go to this, and if it gets through this particular fix of Fig, I want to see 100 Thieves ban it out, because it can absolutely pop off in the right circumstance.
Oh, and there's the Nidalee locked in for NXI. This is a treat to watch. Anytime you see a jungler play Nidalee in amateur, it's either going to be feast or famine. They're going to pop off, or they're going to do absolutely nothing, just be a glorified ward at that point. Like you said, though, you do see the LeBlanc available. Ash was locked in for 100 Thieves, has been rising massively in popularity. due to all of her utility and just kind of lane dominance. But it's going to be the Jhin for Radiance, a champion we haven't seen a whole lot of in recent weeks, hovering that Senna to go along with it.
Yeah, in recent weeks specifically, there have been a handful of teams that have been going back to something like this. Yeah, in this case, it is the Senna pick being locked in here, and I think they have played it before, but I'm not shocked. But here for Radiance, Cow is a good player of something like the Senna. They want to take it away from 100 Thieves because they didn't ban it out, so they're going to grab that one for themselves.
So just to make sure nobody gets confused, even though it shows Jhin on the screen, that Jhin is actually a Senna. That I guess doesn't even show it for you guys on the stream, just for us this stream. But Orianna, really great pick for Radiance, offers a lot of power in team fights with just the zoning potential of that ball, and I felt like that was a lot of what Radiance were missing in the last game. They had a good first game plan, but if that failed, they had no backup. So at least Orianna has a team fight power, but you said it, the LeBlanc 100 Thieves, they didn't ban it, they decided to pick it up for themselves.
Yeah, I'm a little shocked. I guess maybe the thought for Young Mid is you'd rather have something a little more teamfight based and a little bit secure in the laning phase compared to the LeBlanc, which has shown he's been a little bit off with it in certain games and certain setups, things of the sort. And so they're not going to be able to take that. Instead, they go with the lot saner of the lafing here, or the lot safer of the laning here with Orianna. With LeBlanc in the aggressive role here for Copy, that's really interesting. It doesn't quite have the massive realm power of something like Twisted Fate, but it does have a lot of carry potential, which we aren't typically accustomed to seeing Copy really pull the reins of a game to himself. But the LeBlanc pick, especially with an Ashe on the bottom side, can really start to have that. I will say, double AP in mid and jungle is a little bit, kind of strugglesome if you're going to try to compete for the river control. Once Runic Echoes, once Luden's Echo comes in for these two, they can start to put some pressure in. But before that mark, it might be a bit tough to wrestle away river control.
Early game already going over to Graves, especially against the double AP. What is Radiance going to pick up alongside this Senna, though? We know she's probably going to be going to the bot lane, but you're looking for a strong form of engage to come out from either their top or bottom laner. So you can have that ball delivery from the Senna. They've already banned out the Maokai, the Set, to those champions that can easily access your backline. What else is left on the list?
It's interesting to try to consider what it is that you're going to pair with Senna here, because you can either get aggressive with Ashe with it at the support role, which is part of the reason, but 100 Thieves says to that prospect by taking something like Blitzcrank. So in my mind, now you're going to have to go towards like something like the fasting Senna with a support. In this case, they're leaning for the Nautilus. I don't think that's bad. It's pretty good into Blitzcrank, and that's plenty of safety coming through here. Not to mention Cal plays plenty of that champion. I do think it was flexible between the two, depending on what 100 Thieves went for in that bottom side, and their adaptation here is what made it such an amazing grab.
Ooh, I was hopeful there for a second. A blind pick Fiora would have been the epitome of spicy. Jace is still okay. See some aggression coming out of him. If you want to put North America coin flip into one champion, it is the Jace, the birth of the NA Jace memes. But they're going for it. They want to try to get aggressive. It's going to be a blind pick into the top side. We do see some of the frontliners, like the Malphite available, the Volibear available if they want to put someone beefy in front of their very high damage, very pick-oriented composition. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it looks like the Malphite's going to be the lock-in. So quick, immediate engage, and so much burst to follow it up.
It's been a little bit of the response to AP champions, AD champions, not AP champions. Malphite doesn't do well in that matchup, but typically it's the really good response to Wukong. But you've been seeing it pop up as a response to Jace. You can poke it out. You have good wave clear as long as you have armor and a little bit of health in your pocket. The early game damage of Jace kind of got nerfed a while back, and he's much more of a mid to late game champion now as opposed to his old win lane self, even against the likes of Malphite. So Malphite's laning phase is a bit easier, does provide that massive team fighting ultimate, a good amount of CC as well for the team, and soaks a fair amount of the damage. When you've got Graves, you've got Senna, and you've got Jace with the Nautilus behind it, the only real threat to the Malphite's health bar becomes that Orianna.
I do like the composition from Radiance in game number 2, though. I feel like they've pulled in on the reins a little bit. Last time it was all about the burst, the one-shot, the dive, trying to get this super complex combo off and just obliterate your enemies. This time, they have a couple more team fighting tools with the Orianna, the ball delivery. They've got a lot of sustained DPS coming through from Graves and Jace. So I think there's a lot more tools for them to actually combat in these fights if their initial combo doesn't go the way that they hope.
Yeah, and you look also at the side of 100 Thieves, where you've got Blitzcrank, you've got Ashe, you've got Nidalee, you've got LeBlanc. They have fantastic pick tools, fantastic 1v1, 2v2 type tools, but their ultimates, or their team fights really contingent on the likes of Malphite, and then, of course, you have the rest of the team being able to hit that damage throughout. And I think they actually get outpoked with Jace, with Senna, and then, of course, Orianna being able to zone them, so they can't really engage into a team very easily without Malphite ultimate. So 100 Thieves is going to be relying a lot on Fallen Bandit here to try to generate some of that pressure, or at minimum, something like Blitzcrank or LeBlanc or Ashe Arrow to generate picks around objectives instead of taking the pure 5-on-5. Radiance, I wouldn't say they're in the same boat. They can play a lot further back, though, utilize the Jace, utilize the Senna, the Orianna to try to get some free damage, and your front line is going to be the Nautilus and the Graves, things that you can soak with a little bit of front line pressure with. The question then becomes, of course, how powerful does 100 Thieves get on things like the Nidalee and LeBlanc that can assassinate Graves, put some damage onto a support Nautilus to break through that front line and get to those backliners.
This time as well, 100 Thieves playing with a lot less global tools. They don't have the Twisted Fate ultimate. They don't have the Tahm Kench bringing anybody in. It was a big reason why they were able to survive the hyper aggression from Radiance in Game 1 was the fact that at a whim, they could bring their entire team to a fight in just a couple of seconds. This time, they're going to be locked a bit more into their lanes. So I think this is going to be an almost much better test of NXI and Fallen Bandit and how they work more in a standard setup, because that first game was kind of just a 25-30 minute long team fight in reality.
That it was. I also, when you go back to 100 Thieves composition, I'm not sure about the combination of Ashe and Blitzcrank. Yes, you've got really good CC, but like if you are a Blitzcrank and you're trying to name off the champions that you want at ADC to capitalize on your hooks, to capitalize on your knockups, I'm not sure the first champion that comes to mind is the likes of the Ashe. So I would like to see Otto get out of the laning phase a little bit. Go help out Copy, because Copy's got burst damage. Help out NXI. Let him hit a spear, get a big assassination off that. And that could be some of the way that you control the river, is if you've got Yeon in a pretty good position to push out the likes of Andy, Bendy, and Kala, especially if this is fasting Senna, then Otto can make a big impact into Young mid's lane, into Avi's jungle, and things of that sort to get your mid jungle rolling in a very different way.
Yeah, I do expect this to be fasting Senna as Andy Bendy picked up the champion. But when you're looking at champions that can set up those hooks, though, I think Ashe is one of the premier ADCs. You get that slow on the W, on the Q, and it makes it really hard for Senna or Nautilus to actually avoid the hooks at that point. So I do like that they have a bit of utility built in there to try to guarantee the very easy engage that they have on their board. And I think it's a really strong plus for 100 Thieves composition, both in the last game and this one, is the ease of execution. They know exactly how they have to play these fights, and there's nothing too flashy to pull it off. You're not looking for these crazy insects or this super complicated dive pattern where everybody has to juggle aggro. It's just kind of look at the enemy, Malphite presses R on top of them, and then everybody throws all their spells at them.
Yeah, you break apart this fight, you turn it into a couple of different, smaller skirmishes, 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s at max. I do think that 100 Thieves has a much stronger composition, since you've got Blitzcrank to pull someone aside, Nidalee's good in the 1v1, LeBlanc's good in the 1v1, things of that sort. And if they group up, you've got a punishment from the likes of Malphite. And on the other side, if you play a little bit more 5v5, especially if Fallen Bandit can find those ultimates in the right situation, I do think that Engo and Jace and Orianna, Senna, they have enough through and through damage to win a front-to-back team fight.
100 Thieves has certainly stepped up their game. If you're looking to do the same, it all starts with your peripherals. From keyboards to keycaps, mice, and more, our friends at Kono have got you covered. Kono is working with the world's best designers, inventors, and makers to bring you the best gaming peripherals around. They've been a huge supporter of us here at Upsurge, and they make generous contributions to our prize pools. If you need to find a new keyboard, check out the Hexgears X1 RGB low-profile Bluetooth mechanical keyboard. I don't think they could have fit more features into that thing if they tried. And you can even use the discount code UpsurgeGG for 7% off your first order. If you want more information, head over to kono.store to check out everything they have to offer, and it's a lot. That's KONO.store. Kono, discover amazing products. And with that, we're going to go to another short break as we get into this game two, shaping up to be one heck of a story here with Radiance versus 100 Thieves. You aren't going to want to miss it. Go grab some popcorn and get your butt back here. Welcome back, everybody, to this wonderful series that we have here, Radiance versus 100 Thieves. Honestly, NXI coming out of nowhere is the story today. His Graves game 1 was immaculate. It was taken away from him game number 2. Did he go to a supportive pick? Hell no. He locked in the Nidalee, and he's here once again to show us exactly what he can do. The 5-man stack. And Otto, he's looking for Cow, who has to flash away. Honestly, a really good escape from Cowbear.
Yeah, making sure to walk into the river, because if he waits too long in that tri-brush, he ends up getting very heavily punished by the likes of the hook. He basically has to flash instantly, and then there's potential for flash afterwards. So I like the fact that he was in the river. I think he kind of autopiloted there for a little bit of a second, because I know he saw them before he got to that brush, and then immediately had to make the play after. But either way, well played to make sure. And he's got Hex Flash, so it's not that big of a deal. Might get hit by an extra hook here or there, but as long as NXI doesn't end up in that bottom lane, should be perfectly fine.
Even the best of us get caught window shopping from time to time, Rebel. Cow had the wrong window open. He might have been playing TFT on his other monitor. But I do like the aggression from 100 Thieves. They get the flash out. You now have another lane that you can try to attack early, especially with NXI on a Nidalee. If you can get into the bottom lane, find a hook onto Cow, maybe you can get something done.
Yeah, I mean, even without or even without NXI, I do think that the Ashe is enough of a threat with those with the auto attacks, with the Q being able to come out and get that perma slow. That there is potential for it. I would like to see them shove the wave and Cal play a little passively until level 2, because at that point you have the W available, you can have the Q available for escape, and at that point I think it's a lot harder to find that level of aggression.
Cal though, looking for a little bit of cheese of his own. He actually just gets hooked back in. Good stun, but he loses most of his health. He might actually go down here as the Ignite is ticking away.
Oh.
He doesn't have Flash, and that's going to give Yawn the first blood, already capitalizing off that level 1 invade.
This is a defensive bottom lane, and you already lost Flash. How is it as Cow that you think, oh, we need to go in right here off the back of a hook onto the Blitzcrank who has Aftershock? It seems a little bit misguided to me to try to make that play happen. Senna also doesn't have the most damage in the early game. Ashe, with that W, with those passive stacks, and it makes it so easy to just win trades early on. Yes, your Q gives some healing, but that seems really, really out of place for Cal to make that play.
Yeah, and this is the Glacial Augment Senna as well. So we're looking at more of a utility focus, slowing down the whole team, looking for those long-range slows and engages. So that one was definitely a big question mark for me. But Cow is back now, still flashless, but still has that Hex Flash, as you mentioned. Also, really good by Auto to kind of hold his ground and make sure that Yawn was going to pick up the final auto attack, gifting that first blood over to his ADC. And in the top lane, we do see Engo, as expected, shoving in this Malphite early on. A couple of CS advantage. Auto over the wall. What a hook to find Cow again. Avi's going to try to take him back, though. Auto getting dangerously low, but so is Cow. This might be a 1-for-1 trade at the least, as now Avi is caught between a rock and hard place. Copy's going to tether him up, but a flash over the wall will get him out for now. It is going to be a support for support there in the end. But Yawn picking up, or sorry, it was actually NXI picking up that kill there.
Yeah, kills traded for junglers right there. The aggression from Avi really nice because, of course, the hook from the likes of Otto onto Cal would have almost certainly met his death if Yawn was able to get there uncontested. But Avi's presence there, getting over the wall, immediately putting pressure, means that you couldn't walk up if you're Yawn. You have to be able to play a little bit more passively right there. Saves the flash as well. And yes, the 1-for-1 isn't too bad here. And I do like the fact that they're able to trade that at least a little bit.
Oh, and Otto, he's looking to do it again. Walks right up, still has his jungler in tow. And what a hook from Cow, perfectly buffered. Is it going to be enough, though? I think he's just barely going to get out. Teleport going to be channeled from Engo. Health bars low, and a great hook. Young is going to come in to grab that kill. Really good job.
Yeah, this is still a very bulky bot lane and has a lot of sustainability. So you have, things like the Nautilus shield, like the Q coming through from the likes of Senna. So you get aggressive and you're able to hit the hook on NXI, but they got so far back that if NXI pushed any further forward, there was the risk of getting caught underneath tower and trading kill. Not to mention the TP from Young Mid ends up dissuading any further attempts of getting underneath the tower, maybe juggling aggro or something. Really well played from Radiance in that reactive type play with their defensive bot lane to slow down the progress of Yawn and Otto so far.
Also, really good job by Cow. I feel like if that hook does not get buffered in the exact way that it was, then they definitely just get a free kill there. Young probably doesn't even teleport down, but that godlike buffer to get himself out of the Blitzcrank grab was what set that entire thing up. And now Young up a couple of CS and a kill in a lane that was not supposed to go his way.
Yeah, you talk about just about as good as possible. That might have been just the exact right place to throw that hook to get him out. And there's been a lot of pressure on bottom side, which is interesting because last game we had the same thing. A lot of aggression into the defensive bot lane with the Ezreal Tahm Kench. And the Ezreal Tahm Kench, while yes, they seeded quite a bit in the early game, they didn't really go to a CS deficit. They gave up first tower, yes, but they weren't really losing per se by the end of the laning phase. And all of that early pressure was wasted. Now it's actually the side of 100 Thieves who are attempting the same thing, this time with an Ashe and a Blitzcrank instead of a Kalista Pantheon, which has a better scaling late, but you still have to kind of admire the kind of reflection we see across both.
Ooh, Fallen Bandit hitting level 6 first here in this lane. He's just gonna go in, and Engo's gonna go out. Fallen Bandit, he is flexing right now. And speaking of lanes that they weren't supposed to win, it's NAJs, everybody.
Yeah, so it's already Engo who's going more for the aggressive late game build with Manamune instead of going for lethality early into the likes of the Malphite, which doesn't help you all that much because he builds quite a bit of armor to start with, so it's not shocking to see that. But the base damage from the likes of Malphite, especially that Q spam coming through with the likes of Arcane Comet, it is absolutely disgusting. It makes it so easy for Malphite to simply walk up, hit that ability, and drain Engo of a quarter of his health, fifth of his health, something like that, every single time he wants to come up and touch the wave. Rough situation. Engo burnt flash and TP to get back to top lane, but
Oh, the Thieves, though, they're looking to set up a play. Had vision the whole time. Once again, it's Cow hooked in. It's Avi running. It's 100 Thieves killing. And they are now on a full retreat. Otto sidesteps into the Senna W. And that's going to mean he goes down. It'll be a 1-for-1 trade. Once again, support for support. These two players have just been sacrificial lambs for their squad this game.
And given the fact that we come down to the bottom side of the game, you're talking about the pressure that was there from 100 Thieves. They had 4 members compared to only the 3 from Radiance, yet Radiance soaks that and end up with the Dragon because of the roam from Engo coming down to bottom side, and Young Mid just holding really firm in mid lane, making sure Copy's going to get punished for it. So far, Radiance responding really well to the pressure generated around the map from the side of 100 Thieves.
And I feel like a big part is that Otto has been able to hit these hooks, but only onto Cow so far, which worked out in the first 2 or 3 minutes. But at this point, as he once again is able to buffer that hook, Cow is too tanky for you to really hook in. You want to be finding the Senna, the Orianna, these backline carries, because a Nautilus kind of wants to go into your team.
A little bit. Now the setups here for Andy, but he's not going to be able to hit the W. Yeah, a little bit of forethought here from Yon and Otto to be able to back off the wave before that Graves ends up coming in. And I agree with your point that the Nautilus isn't the ideal situation to pull in, but Otto so far, every time he's found a pull onto the likes of Cow, he's either gotten a kill or a summoner spell. Even that last one, which looked completely fine, was actually a heal burn from Andy Bendy. So they are consistently putting pressure onto this bot lane. The problem is they're not able to capitalize on it. NXI hasn't been able to find ganks to the bottom side that have worked. Copy hasn't been able to really find a roam outside of the, or actually those Young Mid that had TP'd in. So Copy hasn't really been able to find anything either.
In for it here, though. Tower's going to be tanked by a Fallen Bandit. An ultimate from Senna to try to turn the tides. Avi in the right place at the right time will trade one back. Really good job by the Graves to anticipate that was the next place for NXI to go. Walked right through lane. He's able to trade one.
And once again, you see Radiance kind of anticipating the plays from 100 Thieves. Another hook to the bottom side as well.
Cow is getting too good at that, as now it's going to be Young. Good flash by Copy to get out of that shockwave, and NXI on a killing spree. And this just feels like a flexing match right now between Avi and NXI, trying to see who can carry harder right now. Avi flashes forward, the red buff and the Q is just enough, but NXI, he takes down his counterpart. 600 gold shutdown over to the Nidalee.
Really well played there from NXI. It came down to the last second. The ultimate from Avi would have definitely claimed the life of the Nidalee had that last auto attack not come through. Really, really well played. Copy goes down in trade of the life, but that gave enough time for NXI to put the damage onto Avi to win the 1v1. And that's what we've been waiting for is NXI. He's the one replacing Kenvi. He's the one that's flexing in this game. And so far, he's looking dominant in game 2 as well.
Ooh, Hex Flash forward onto Andy, or to Yon, sorry. The Ignite as well. Good job by Otto to block that hook. That's going to be what actually saves Yon. Both summoners burn, and he just slinks away.
That he does. And so far, I mean, for the pressure...
In the bot lane, though, here comes NXI. Teleport from someone as well, from Fallen Bandit. Can they actually get anything? No. I got all excited. I saw these 4 players, and no, it's just Cow getting out again.
That it is. And more pressure across the map completely abated from the side of 100 Thieves. Somehow their aggression in every lane is just being either matched or foretold here from the side of Radiance. And now, even worse, this top side was a good lane. It actually looked like Fallen Bandit was just smashing this for the entire first few minutes. That teleport cost him not just the teleport cooldown, but also a lot of pressure bot side.
Yeah, Copy is able to land that chain, but NXI, despite how strong he is, despite having a 7-stack Dark Seal in inventory, not able to have enough burst to take that one down. He does spot Avi, taking the Herald. Copy, though, he's walked into the wrong bush, as now he's 200 HP, gets hooked back, and Cow is going to grab credit for that one.
Nice.
Ooh, but NXI steals the Rift Herald! Is able to get something back for the squad. Fallen Bandit has to flash away. And although they lose a member... Oh, Otto, you can't do that! That's too long! It's too far! Avi now, he's in trouble. But it's actually going to be Otto going down because Cow, again, finds the hook that he needs. It feels like these two teams are just playing on such even levels right now. Otto and Cow both hitting the hooks, both junglers popping off. And with 14 kills, the fact that we only have a 400 gold difference at this point is incredible.
That is, especially given the fact that the advantage is actually in favor. It's going to be equalized right here, but it's actually in favor of Radiance. 100 Thieves have been the one on front foot, always looking for plays, and somehow is Radiance that's arm wrestled away for a priority in this game constantly. We're not for NXI putting a lot of priority right there, making sure that the Rift Herald goes down in their favor. It would have been an insanely good little play coming out from the side of Radiance, being able to take everything. If they get that Rift Herald, that is a huge momentum shift in the game where 100 Thieves might have to start backing off and stop making these plays. Thankfully, NXI has been a beneficiary. A little bit of kills spread out throughout the rest of their carries as well, so they have some ways to work around. But certainly the composition from Radiance looking really, really good, and Avi has put down laid down the law at least a little bit in this jungle.
He absolutely has. And with that True Grit passive, it actually makes Graves so hard to take down. You can see him starting to itemize already into the magic resist, Merc Treads, plus another Null Magic Mantle in an inventory. So that's going to be hard for Copy to burst through. So you're really looking at who is going to be the one that can finish off Avi. With all of the extra stats that he gets, he is not only dishing out serious amount of damage, but he's deceptively tanky too.
Absolutely, into a triple AP composition with the likes of the Malphite, the Nidalee, and the likes of course, the LeBlanc out of the mid lane. Oh, that's a lot of burst damage. It's a lot of AP damage to have to worry about. So Yeon has to do a lot more of the heavy lifting for Avi, but that pressure and having to stand forward to fight the Graves puts you at risk of a young mid ultimate, of Andy Benny putting some damage onto you, and Go hitting a big shock blast. And so Yeon being able to get out into the front and put damage onto the Graves is a lot more daunting a task than what would have been in previous games. I like this from Avi, itemizing towards the damage that's more likely to hit him to force out more aggressive positioning from Yeon to have him take damage in fights.
NXI and Fallen Bandit looking for something, but Radiance, they've spotted this out. There was a lot of pings going onto that brush, so they know that something fishy's in the air.
There is. Actually, they get to complete topside control here with some good vision, and NXI is completely controlling the topside here for Fallen Bandit, who's expressing the fact that, Manamune Jay's not really great in the laning phase, and yes, he has the farm advantage right now, but it is actually Fallen Bandit who is ahead by a ridiculous 1,300 gold with only really the one kill to his name. It's relatively even in farm, but that tower plating on topside, that solo tower, really, really big to get him this advantage. This means Jace has basically no effect against the Malphite in the side lane for at least a very long time, and he's going to be looking more for skirmishes, more for team fighting, because that's really the only place he's going to find any actual value.
With the Mirror Mana Inso, he is looking for possibly a bit of more on-hit builds. We'll see if that gives him the boost that he needs to try to contest Fallen Bandit. And in a game where... Oh, hang on. Otto thought he was going to look for another hook. In a game where both junglers are getting a lot of the team's gold, I feel like I favor Radiance a lot more in this situation, because Graves, as the game goes on, he's a monster now, but he only gets worse. Whereas NXI, as soon as you get some magic resist under your belt, those spears start to look a little bit more like feathers.
Yeah, that's the case for a lot of reasons, and then the Nidalee also has to take a really aggressive stance to try assassinating anybody by jumping into Cougar stance, finding the Panther execution on top of a spear of some kind. And so, Avi is relatively low range, but can at least keep a little bit of distance, and it has a lot of mobility with E. Whereas NXI on this Nidalee, you hit a spear, yeah, it's going to chunk somebody, but for the most part, you have to jump in to finish the kill, and that's where the fear comes. You're putting yourself in another risky situation, in the same way that Yeon will have to in order to get onto Avi. This is really, really good stuff, and the compositions in the late game are going to be interesting to watch simply because of the way that they interact.
A lot of members coming down here, see if they can find anything. Cow is left alone under turret, but with no wave means that 100 Thieves can't really make anything happen. I do like the Fallen Bandits looking, though. You can
Mhm.
see he knows that he's not going to be able to pressure Engo that much.
Oh.
Ooh, good job by Cow to punish Yon, who was trying to freeze the wave. 3 members there, and that feels a little bit sloppy from Yon, but the teleport coming through, the cavalry has arrived, and Copy's gonna find the shutdown onto the support. Avi's going wild, though. Engo is gonna find another kill. NXI unstoppable, and now it's jungle v jungle. Avi is so much damage. He's so tanky, but Fallen Bandit has the health bar. It's a triple kill for NXI, and he lives to tell the tale. Heist successful. NXI is here to play.
What a performance right there during the course of that team fight. From the side of 100 Thieves, they bring everyone down so quickly once Yon has been punished. Malphite doesn't even find a really good ultimate. It's just all of the damage they've got, all the good CC they've got on the rest of their team is phenomenal. And you'll see in the replay coming up, they were able to find the play against Ashe, but then here comes the collapse. You got Auto, you got Fallen Bandit again. So ultimate doesn't really do much, but they don't have the damage to turn for the most part. Avi's trying to basically solo carry this fight with damage, and NXI on the back line is completely untouched. He's going to walk away with 2 kills just to start with here, and then everything else ends up collapsing around them. Those 2 members didn't have the damage to win the initial fight, and then of course you know how this plays out with NXI finding the kill under tower from the tank bandit.
100 Thieves looking for a brush gank, but Engo smartly backing off there. My favorite part about that last play had to be the fadeaway spear from NXI. As he's fighting Avi, Cow is dead to rights, like 50 HP, and he's like, nope, I'm gonna throw my spear at that one. Make sure I grab that kill away from my teammates, and then he finishes off the jungler. Fallen Bandit, actually, Andy Benty just goes poof. He's there 1 minute, blink, and he's gone.
But he is actually a little bit of fight.
Ooh, great 2-man knockup there from Fallen Bandit as well. Shockwave's gonna pull him back in. That's a tanky Malphite, but he's no match for all the CC that Radiance have to offer. A great 3-man knockup from Cow. He's gonna go golden to keep himself alive. NXI is gonna take him down though, and now running for his life. Avi wants revenge. Doesn't look like he has the damage, the mobility to finish it off though. NXI is gonna walk away with another one.
That he is. Nice little play actually on both sides. So from the side of 100 Thieves, they're able to find the dragon after 2 going the way of Radiance early on. And this is big, being able to stall out the soul and potentially prevent any sort of forced soul point fights from coming through, not to mention the great pick onto Andy Bendy to start. And the fight afterwards actually a little bit sloppy from 100 Thieves, and Radiance turns it. That Ashe arrow actually split the uprights between the Fallen Bandit play, which is really, actually I think it was Blitzhang that split the uprights during that, the Fallen Bandit throws the ultimate in. And the ensuing fight afterwards, of course, goes the way of Radiance. They lose a little bit off the back end, and still 100 Thieves holds about a 2,000 gold lead, but you can see this game is just ridiculously close in every single engagement.
And it's starting to slip out of their hands. The magic resist coming through across the board. 4 Merc Treads completed at this point. And the one source of AD damage in Yon, it's 1 in 3. It's an Ashe that has only finished a Blade of the Ruined King, not even really halfway to the Hurricane. So in the next couple minutes, once that magic resist continues to start stacking, you can now see Avi has the Hex Drinker in inventory. It's going to be more and more difficult for NXI to have these pop-off fights.
That it will, and slowly you'll also see, of course, Andy Bendy's damage going to start to ramp. The healing's going to go up as the AD continues to go up. Avi is still this ridiculous force for damage, having the Hex Shrinker and now building towards Black Cleaver to shred 4 more Senna damage, more Jace damage, and slowly somehow Engo is also keeping clawing into this game. He was down 1,300 gold to Violent Bandit, now shrunk that to a very reasonable amount, 800, not completely manageable, but still much better than when he was earlier, simply off the fact that he's been side laning rather well.
And there means that Young gets to get out scot-free. Phase Rush making him real speedy. And might be looking for something else, as he's found Avi in a bush, but is he standing on a ward?
Not exactly sure. It doesn't look like that was the case. I think they just knew he walked into river. They didn't see him walk completely up river. So either you walk directly up into your own jungle or you're backing in that rush. So the test is there from Avi. He knows he wins the 1v1. being against the wall and whatnot. And now we're going to drop Rift Herald bot lane, which is going to be a tower at minimum, if not a little bit more pushed into the bottom side. They're moving Fallen Bandit and the rest of their team there to respond to it, but that means the rest of the map is open. I would take this opportunity as Radiance to put some wards in your own jungle. So far, 100 Thieves has been everywhere on the map, especially in the opposing jungle. So if they claim a lot of their vision back and keep their vision in the river around the Baron, they have a bit of priority around that pit.
Right now it is 100 Thieves with the vision control around the objective. That Rift Herald and turret going more or less unanswered though. The waves were not in a position for 100 Thieves to actually respond. You can see Engo is pushed in multiple waves into that top lane turret. There was an Ash arrow thrown out in the mid lane to try to catch out Andy, but I mean he was just able to sidestep that one. So that was just straight up, free gold going into Radiance's pocket. Now they get to reset, finish Leandry's for Young, finish Yomu's Ghostblade for Andy Bendy, and now they're looking for a fight.
I will say, actually, in this particular instance, I'm not in love with Young Mid's choice to go Leandry's. I know most of the time it's a good choice. Actually, we're going to wait for Otto.
Otto's on the hunt. He's speeding forward. He's caught Cow. But my God, these hooks are on point. Cow, how many times are you going to do that? He's just been perfect with the placement, with the timing. And it feels like there should be like another 1 in front of the 5 in the death column, but there's not.
No, there is not. Yeah, he's been fantastic with these. I think now that's 3 that he has made from a good distance or from a good angle that saved his life entirely. If Cow doesn't hit that hook, he absolutely dies right there. But fortunately,
we're gonna forget about that hook.
Yeah, that hook doesn't really matter. It's an Ashe. Ashe is one of the more mobile champions in the game. Don't have to worry about that one.
All the dashes and blinks and mobility she has built in. The arrow is going to come onto Young, but nobody there to follow up. Instead, it's Otto getting caught out. NXI doing what he can to look for the spears. Malphite into the back line finds a good knockup, but again, there's no follow-up. There's the engage, but where's the damage? NXI's trying to supply it. He gets 1, but he gets shut down by Young. So much gold just got donated over to Young there on Radiance, and 100 Thieves, they found a couple of good engages, but their DPS was nowhere in sight.
And this is the struggle for their composition. Yes, you do have a little bit of range from Ashe, and you've got the Nidalee Spears coming in. But to follow up on an ultimate from Malphite is kind of a difficult copy. Look for something, he gets stoned out. But the idea here that the team fight is very strong from 100 Thieves is misguided. They have to throw their bodies very close. They don't really have easy access to following up on a Malphite ultimate, especially if you get that deep like Fallen Bandit did. And so you saw the point of that. NXI tried to get in on the fight. He ended up hitting Cow with the spear, which did nothing because he's your front line. So really, really well played so far from Radiance, knowing that they don't have the spatial awareness to try to take fights from that close. And if they do, I mean, Avi's going to be able to beat them. Engo has quite a bit of damage, and Andy and Cal have more than enough frontline and kind of healing for the rest of the team to get them through that initial burst of damage from Coffee and NXIT.
And at this point, 100 Thieves are even in really only terms of NXI. If you take away NXI's gold lead, I would say 100 Thieves are probably 2,000 to 3,000 gold down. What do they need to do to actually finish this game off?
Well, at the moment, I think you have to force around objectives into them ahead of time to make sure that Radiance has to play into you. This puts you in a risky situation where Engo can put down poke damage, Andy can put down poke damage, but the poke damage isn't going to do too much to Fallen Bandit, so much as he's the one taking it. So if you're the first one there, they have to come to you for the fight. It also puts you in a rough situation for Young Mid's ultimate, but okay, what? Thank you.
And the tide is officially turned. Young God is now one-shotting Copy.
That is rather nice. I actually thought that this, a better buy, honestly, for the Orianna would have been Death Cap than Leandry's, because I wanted to see things like this happen against squishy targets. But
He's doing it anyway.
You just do it with Leandry's. Doesn't even matter. You don't need Rabadons for that.
Don't need Rabadon's Death Cap. Useless item. Should just remove it from the game. Make the LS move and just everybody build Leandry's. Cal, though, getting caught out, doesn't have the perfect hook to save him that time. You will fall to the Ignite, but once again, it's a support for support trade. But Copy's still dead from the last fight, so it is a 4v3 for the moment. But it does look like Radiance is just going to back off. They didn't have the ultimates or the health bars to finish that off. It will be a tier 1 turret in the top side as 100 Thieves will trade that for a tier 2 in the mid lane.
I really like the way that Radiance did try to set up that fight, though. So in an antithesis to the control for 100 Thieves, trying to force Radiance into your vision, into your river, where the the spacing can kind of be better controlled from 100 Thieves. In this case, it's actually the exact opposite coming out from the side of Radiance, where they choose at what level they engage at. They had Cal so far on the front line, and yes, you broke down, but if Fallen Bandit dies, he goes down in the back line probably a lot, just as fast, if not a little bit slower, maybe, than something like Cal on the front line, especially with Andy Bendy healing him. And then it's a pure challenge and test of Avi, Young Mid, Andy Bendy, and Go versus the damage dealers from 100 Thieves. And we've seen they're not winning those 1v1s. It's a lot about Fallen Bandit being able to set up this team to get your damage dealers out and get them damaged before anything can be responded from Radiance. And that's why this play was so cool. Yes, Cal died, but it shows that Radiance knows how the leveling for these fights needs to operate.
At this point, the only person without some serious magic resist on their squad is Andy Bendy. But currently at 66 stacks, he has a lot of range, and he is really not a prime target for any of the engage for 100 Thieves. You're not going to be looking at him for the Blitzcrank hooks, for the Ash arrows. Maybe Fallen Bandit can get to the back line and knock him up, but the rest of the squad just feels so safe from all of the damage coming out from 100 Thieves. Ash has finally finished off that Hurricane plus the Executioner's Calling, so maybe Yawn can start to ramp up the DPS. But when you're staring down the barrel of a almost 3-item Graves, a 3-item Orianna, it's just not feeling like enough right now.
And not to mention, you see the damage just from a little bit of copy.
Ooh, Copy's gonna get caught out. He's gonna go down. Andy Bendy picks up that one. And that's the full retreat for 100 Thieves. See them trying to hang around, maybe find something, but they're only going to find a hook to the face. Otto does find a good one on the backside. And the Malphite finds 3 in the back line, but still, is it going to be enough? Young on a rampage. We finally saw Yawn pick one up, but it's going to be a 2-for-2 trade at the end. Mid laner down for 100 Thieves, though. Andy flashing forward to get the bind onto the Ash, and Avi will shut him down. And once again, it is Radiance coming on top by a landslide.
And you're seeing the fights come through. When they have a chance on the side of Radiance to pick off one of the damage dealers from 100 Thieves, they do so. And they did lose 2 and ended up being a 3-for-2, all things said and done, because Fallen Bandit didn't get followed up. Ash tried, ended up dying after a little bit of a break in the play and whatnot, but you see the dominance they have. The problem now is, though, there is no frontline to tank against this Italy. And yes, you've got the Hex Shrinker, you've got some Merc Treads, you have damage to kill him, but they're threatening now with Copy coming back, with Otto, with the pick potential. It's a really hard struggle here for the side of Radiance to win this. So they have to sack this dragon in exchange for the very minute amount that they were able to get in terms of gold advantage from that fight. Really well played, making sure that Otto and NXI survive so that they don't have to give up the soul.
I love this, though. By sacking that dragon, they were able to get complete control around the river. Otto gets caught out putting down wards. He's going to flash away to safety, but already that has bought Radiance so much control. And in their eyes, what's one Ocean Drake compared to a Baron?
That's correct. They have all 5 members here. This is a little bit of a risco from Radiance, because if you are letting Fallen Bandit get on top, and if you let the positioning of NXI, Copy, Yeon get on top of you here, there is a real potential that you lose this fight, even the way that you've been playing most of the game.
NXI, can you live up to the 100 Thieves name and steal the Baron? Engo is going to go down quick. That's a good knock-up there from Fallen Bandit. I don't think NXI meant to go golden there, but he's going to flash away back to safety. Look for the Baron steal. 100 Thieves are able to get it. Heist successful. Young, though, is unstoppable. Can they win the fight afterwards? Young, very low on both health and mana, but has a Senna in his back pocket. They're running for the hills, trying to find a safe place to go back to base, and that has left Andy Bendy all on his lonesome.
This was a struggle and a half coming out from Radiance, because over top the wall, you're zoning away NXI, who has all this threat to come in and steal the Baron with this massive amount of AP, the Spear, alongside the Lich Bane, the Smite. There was a real fear he steals it, especially with the level. I don't know if he had it at the time, but certainly close to it against Avi here. So they wanted to take the 50-50 chance away by moving Cow around the back. but it was actually Fallen Bandit, their frontliner, who buys the time and buys the space for the rest of the team to follow up. Not to mention, NXI, as you said, somehow buys enough time with the stopwatch on the backside of the fight to force everyone into a little bit of a funnel, and they slowly get picked off little by little. That's the kind of fight you're looking for from 100 Thieves. It's difficult to find, and they actually, that was not the most best executed version of what you could see, but at minimum, they now have found the bread and butter. If your damage dealers are there to follow Fallen Bandit, and Cow isn't around to frontline and soak the damage from the rest of them, you've got a good recipe to come through with.
I feel like 100 Thieves have no business still being in this game. Like, honestly, you're looking at the Orianna, who is about to finish her 4th item. You have a now 2 lethality item, Senna, and Otto's gonna get caught out here, and he's doing his best to end this one fast. But NXI 10-1-4 on this Nidalee is honestly just putting the entire team on his back and dragging them kicking and screaming into the end of this game. Like, it is so impressive that they are still being competitive, still winning fights, getting big objectives this far in with the amount of scaling that they're up against.
And I wonder how long it is until 100 Thieves actually figures out that Cow gets destroyed by everybody on the side of 100 Thieves if they focus their damage. And so if Fallen Bandit is able to create a gap in the middle of a fight where Cow is stuck on one side, the rest of the team is stuck on the other, Cow will die ridiculously faster than Fallen Bandit will, with all the armor he's built and with really Youngmid being the only threat against him. And yeah, he might be able to put half of his health bar at dent, but the rest of the team will not, and Cow will die a lot faster. And if that is done, you no longer have the front line for Avi, Youngmid, Engo, Andy Bendy to actually make anything happen.
Fallen Bandit gonna get engaged on here. Is gonna ultimate a way to safety. As Cow, you said how squishy he is. He's gonna go pop. Good shockwave gonna find NXI, but he's gonna go gold. And Otto is gonna grab in Andy Bendy. And now Radiance look like they're on the back foot. Members are healthy. Engo really wanted to go in onto Jan. Might have just thought that he was dead to rights at that point. And once again, 100 Thieves, they're able to split up the team. They got Cow alone, just like you said. Otto has been immaculate on these hooks. And 33 minutes in, they are now knocking on the inhibitor door.
And you pull Fallen Bandit out of that fight with the ultimate being driven backwards, and you soak so many resources into him that Cow walks forward, doesn't realize he gets popped. You saw it was one spear from NXI and a little bit of a combo from Copy was all that was necessary. And yes, you end up getting a nice pull to pull NXI into your team. The stopwatch was huge, and your team is so far up. All this damage and all this pick potential can now be used by the side of 100 Thieves. So you don't see this massive play, but a couple of members here and there is enough to get 100 Thieves a little bit of pressure across the map. Now they can look for Nidalee spears, blitzcrank hooks, ash arrows to find and generate these kind of outnumbers across the map. That is it. Okay, oh, never mind. I thought that was a red TP. I was really worried for a second.
That would have been a yikes.
Yeah, that definitely would have. But they're prostrating around Dragon, and this will be a big Dragon here for Radiance.
Once again, Cow gets hooked in, and he's already might die to the ignite. Actually, no, the shield at the last second will keep him safe. But Copy running away from Avi. Good dodge there on the ultimate at the very end. Oh my goodness, Yawn comes in with the saving grace as he's able to stun up Engo before he takes down Copy. And now that's going to be a Dragon going over to 100 Thieves, putting themselves on Soul Point. I believe at one point it was 3 Dragons to 0. Not 100%, don't fact check me on that, but I want to shout out how well 100 Thieves have been controlling the vision around the jungle. It feels like even in fights where you think, okay, jungle, close quarters, that's going to be a playground for Young on this Orianna, but they don't know where anybody is. The Ocean Drake offering so much more brushes, they're just controlling the vision. Cow's dead again. Nope. And 100 Thieves, this time, okay, yeah, so they won't find Cow, but they will find an inhibitor turret. That's what I meant.
Yes.
Fallen Bandit gonna go over the wall with the ultimate. Young has to flash away. Copy's not gonna let him, though. He's still gonna take him down. And it's Yawn. He's got the slows. He's got the damage now. And they are gonna take down the inhibitor. 100 Thieves looking to end this one right here. Good sidestep by Cow. Where was that 20 minutes ago? And I'm sorry, Radiance. You're doing really, really good in this game. but it has just seemed like another level from 100 Thieves. Oh, that hook! Auto just on autopilot. Avi is doing what he can, but there's just not enough bullets in that gun. Second Nexus turret is gonna fall.
Somebody.
Avi's gonna do everything he can to try to clear out these minions, but it is gonna be 100 Thieves. Maybe Avi, he's playing Ring Around the Rosie. They don't have any ADCs to actually finish this one off. Hit the Nexus, type it in chat. He got the Fallen Bandit on 1 HP closes out the game, and 100 Thieves will steal their way to a series point against Radiance. They had no right winning that game. None at all. But they did it.
I am so lost the back and forth between these two teams. It's like one team went to being easier execution, the other team did, and you have to give that to a lot of adaptation from both teams in the way that they are trying to feed team fight. But I think after the whole day is done with, you talk about Cow versus Fallen Bandit frontline. Every time those fights came out, Fallen Bandit burnt more resources, he found good engagements, and he soaked more damage and things of that sort. Not to mention the mobility and the pick potential from 100 Thieves composition throughout the entire game. Copy, I think, had a surprisingly decent game for himself. As we said, NXI being able to find spears and finding picks constantly in that game was another really, really big reason why, 100 Thieves, despite the fact that they didn't feel like they were really controlling the game the whole time, did come out with the win in the series. Or within the game. My apologies.
Also, the Blitzcrank from Auto. Can we talk about that for a minute? Because from minute one, even before that, because they had the level 1 invade, they had Cow's number, and I think Auto probably hit his first 6 or 7 hooks onto the Nautilus, netting his team 2 to 3 kills. And I think that was really the tipping point that allowed them to come back through. You were talking about how Cow was never able to match the front line of Fallen Bandit, and being the sole tank on his team, you got to think that if he was 1 or 2 items further along his progression, that maybe that would have been enough to allow Radiance to secure it. But the hooks from Auto, they always found Cow. They almost always took him down, and there was nothing left for Radiance to fall back on. So I was honestly impressed across the board from the team. Fallen Bandit in lane on the Maokai was a little bit shaky, but honestly, that's fine. Let's actually take a look at the replay from that bottom lane fight.
And we're going to see a very elongated fight, which is huge here. But watch NXI because he finds a couple of good spears. And here's him and Copy combining against Young Mid, which is humongous because, of course, Young Mid has quite a bit of the damage. From this point, there's a lot of range exposure. There's Ngo going down. Copy actually, he doesn't quite go down right here because Cow misses the hook. He does sidestep eventually and stalls this with the ultimate just a little bit more. But again, they find the pick. The reset from Andy Bendy and Avi give them enough health to be able to work with on the opposite side. And from this point, it basically just becomes a ring around the rosy around the tower. Yes, you get the one pick. Avi does his best to just rip this out of the hands of 100 Thieves, but it's not quite enough. He ends up getting brought down. Andy Bendy, they just get absolutely eradicated here. And then, of course, afterwards, there's nothing left for the most part to talk about. I do think there were a lot of little mistakes across the board from Radiance. I want to talk about, Ingo's laning phase. He got bullied out by Fallen Bandit. They put a lot of pressure at the top side to make sure that stayed that way. And Go never had the burst damage, never had the scaling to punish NXI or Copy when they ran in, or even Yeon if he was able to hit a shock blast on backline. I still think that Young Mid shouldn't have gone for Void Staff Leandries. He should have gone for Rabadons and focused on getting the ball into the backline, bursting out Yeon, bursting out Copy, bursting out NXI when they tried to make an aggressive play, instead of playing for the consistent damage against Fallen Bandit, because he still wasn't just killing him fast.
Is on the verge of clean sweeping Radiance, and not a tagline I thought I'd be presenting here today, especially with bringing in brand new, we'll call him a superstar jungler now in NXI. This man is just completely come into his own on this team. I am so impressed. Where are they finding these junglers? Is there a Discord? Can I sign up? I want some of these guys on my team in solo queue. It's ridiculous how good NXI is playing in his very first series with the squad. I can't wait to see how this is going to turn up. Radiance, you have one more chance to defend yourselves, because right now, a little embarrassing. So we're going to go into a short break. Game number 3 coming in soon. Don't go anywhere.
just walk right out the door. Don't wanna do this anymore. Now I'm lost without you. You drive me crazy out my mind. How'd you do this every time? Now I'm lost without you. Used to be the one I talk to when I'm sad. Can't you see now tainted love is all we have? Our issues run so deep, now when I try to sleep I feel so bad. I should leave, and by the time it's done I'll be gone.
Welcome back, everybody, to game number 3 of the series between 100 Thieves and Radiance. Now, how do we even explain this one, Rebel? Because coming into this one, losing Kenvi, losing Tenacity, a lot of question marks around 100 Thieves. They're gone. Like, out of the water. You can't even see them. I don't even remember where they were. Fallen Bandit, the coach coming in for the top lane, and NXI, this new jungler I have never heard of. He comes in, he plays Graves, and he dominates. He plays Nidalee, and he dominates. He is checking all my boxes right now. They're on the verge of 3-0ing Radiance, who is a team that is looking increasingly good over the last couple of weeks, and I'm honestly kind of blown away at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you walk into this series and somebody would have told me, oh, there's a dominant 2-0 command for one of these teams to start with, I would have been like, okay, so Radiance is taking advantage of the fact that Tenacity and Kenvi are gone. I would never have thought in 100 Thieves years, of course, that Radiance would be the one that's getting just absolutely thrown around the map. I do think Game 2 was a lot closer, which is good, at least in comparison. But 100 Thieves has definitely shocked me, and especially their jungler, as you said, NXI, has been an absolute godsend to this team. He's looking all of the talent that they want to replace them.
Game 2, in a way, was almost more impressive to me because 100 Thieves were able to find the win where 90% of their damage was magic damage going up against a very fed late game team that had a lot of magic resist. But they were still able to consistently find picks. They out macroed their opponents, they controlled the vision better, and it was really through their teamwork and team play that they won that game rather than just having a good composition or relying on scaling.
Yeah, and in game 1, I mean, they just walked away with it. In game 2, there was a lot more pushback from Radiance. There was a good composition, good scaling. Avi was an absolute monster during the early game, keeping the game really close in terms of gold. So, as you said, I think it's a really impressive win for game number 2 because that meant that 100 Thieves was tested a lot more than what we had seen in game 1, and they came out just as clean as we saw. They ended up taking the Nexus in the end in a really dominating fashion yet again, and now we get to come into game number 3 where they get their blue side, and I think this is the stronger side for 100 Thieves, given the fact that they don't have to worry about the Karma ban.
Yeah, and they are going to get first pick, so NXI, if he wants, will get his choice of the litter. Radiance has not yet banned out any junglers in the first rotation. I would like to see them go towards it, maybe. I mean, we've seen that he can play the Graves and the Nidalee. Avi has a similar champion pool, so you can see 100 Thieves is banning out the Nocturne, but honestly, NXI is just running away with these games.
Yeah, now you give up Graves, of course, to the first pick
Exactly, yeah.
overall, which is really terrifying to think about. Now, Radiance, the question is how do they respond to this? Because you know the Graves is coming from an absolute mile away, given the performance of NXI on that in game number 1. They did have to play to the Graves a bit more than the Nidalee to make it happen. It seemed like in game 1, they were playing really well, making sure the Graves had places to gank, had successes to find, whereas in game 2, the Nidalee was more the pressure. Now they say, okay, Syndra comes out for Young. It did pretty well in game number 1. I thought it wasn't bad. And the Lee Sin is the test, going toe-to-toe right here with NXI. Is Avi throwing down the gauntlets?
Yeah, these are two aggressive junglers that like to play those hyper early game picks going up against each other. Lee Sin versus the Graves. NXI won both sides of the Graves matchup. He won with the Graves and he won against it. So, I mean, I have full faith in him. You've now thrown in Yawn on the Ezreal, and already this is shaping up to be a pretty powerful 100 Thieves draft.
Is, and we have to see, of course, Radiance has to know coming in the Graves was going to get picked first overall. They prioritized the Lee Sin and the Syndra, so plenty of burst damage. And now 100 Thieves, they go to the Ezreal for the likes of course, Yawn in that bottom lane, really good for scaling. And Azir really quickly out of the mid lane. More damage for Copy, a little bit of lane pressure. It doesn't have the same kind of impact in the mobility that we've seen from the Twisted Fate and the LeBlanc, so a different look a bit for Copy here, putting some of the kind of damage profile in his regard. And the Jace comes through from Radiance with an immediate Malphite ban to make sure that what happened last game doesn't happen again.
Yeah, we'll see if maybe he can have a little bit of a better time. He doesn't have that just brick wall sitting in front of him. He even had to opt into, I think he was building towards the Black Cleaver, just to try to stay in the same lane as the Malphite. It did not work well for them at all. Azir coming through, though. I like this from 100 Thieves, giving themselves a bit more late game agency. A lot of their composition has revolved around just NXI getting ahead and snowballing that advantage up to this point. But at least now they have a little bit of insurance to fall back on if he doesn't have a standout performance. But honestly, he hasn't shown us any reason not to believe he's going to carry the game. So.
And you do still have now, of course, Radiance looking for a bot lane pretty much in its entirety. And this is really important because, of course, you have Andy Bendy, you have Cal, two of the players that have been really successful for Radiance in a lot of things. This is the Braum band coming through from Radiance, of course, just to make sure you're all updated. But again, Radiance's bot lane has kind of the linchpin. When you can't rely on anything else going right, it's either Avi or Andy Bendy doing a fair amount of the work, and now giving more priority to that. The Corki gets picked. Oh.
Wow, Azir Corki. I'm having flashbacks. I do like the Corki pick though. I think it offers them a lot of mobility to kind of capitalize on these picks. Wait, I'm just realizing that we also have a Syndra in this game, so it's most likely a Syndra bot. This changes things. I wasn't looking at the entirety of the draft.
It's a little curious. I am curious whether there's any possibility of flexing the Corki to the bottom lane whatsoever, especially into Azir, where Corki has similar scaling in terms of itemization breakpoints, but has a lot more wave clear, and especially with the package, can make plays on bottom river, which is partly kind of what Andy Benny might actually have a perfect opportunity here, where he gets a good late game scaling champion that has a lot more wave clear, a lot more lane priority, and a bit more pressure across the map than his opponent will on the likes of Ezreal. Yeah, maybe the late game, the defense coming out from Ezreal is a little bit better, but the Corki's in that wheelhouse. I would maybe like to see that flex if they're prepared for it.
And I really like the Order of the Nautilus coming through to round out 100 Thieves draft, because you now have a lot of gank assist for 100 Thieves. I think one of the worst things that I can see when teams pick up the Graves is they just pick a bunch of laners that have almost no CC whatsoever. Graves, he has one gap closer that he can, kind of dash forward, but not a lot of lockdown. Radiance, they're going to lock in the Bard to potentially be going alongside that Syndra.
Yeah, like I said, the Cinder or the Corki bottom lane have a little bit of prevalence, and the Bard affects the map a lot more. How really, really good coming out here in the likes of the bottom lane, given the fact that Bard, Cow specifically loves to get outside the laning phase. Bard, one of the best champions for this, with that AE coming out, being able to get him across the map, the roaming pressure, all the chimes to collect across the map. Really important stuff to be able to have.
And our producer just whispered in our ear that there is a chance of a triple flex. You do have the Jace, the Corki, and the Syndra. I'm really interested to see if they would ever decide to flex those around in any weird positions. I do expect it to most likely be Engo with the Jace. It is going to be Corki in the mid lane and Syndra plus the Bard in the bottom lane. But I mean, we'll see how it drafts out.
That we will. I have to expect Engo is going to be grabbing the Jace for the top side, unless you desperately want a free lane for the Corki. He can take the Ornn lane, he can play defensively, and you can easily get to your itemization breakpoints. Heck, you can even build the Blade of the Rune King if you absolutely want to in that lane, if you want some real lane pressure. But I have to expect it's going to be the Jace top, and the question then becomes, is it Corki in the mid lane, or is it Syndra in the mid lane? Again, I actually do think this is a good setup for Corki to sit in bot lane. The W can be used to get away from things like the Nautilus hook. It's a little bit harder to try to follow up, and the damage scaling is similar there to Ezreal.
And Young going to be locking in that Syndra, so we will see Andy Bendy on the Corki. Marksman in his own right. But like you said, a lot of mobility to get away from those hooks. We saw how on point Otto was in the last game with the Blitzcrank, with the hook hitbox even getting wider on the Nautilus. You can imagine how difficult that would be. So I do like the fact that with the Ezreal being taken away from him, he's still going back to something with scaling and mobility.
Yeah, and you think of the lane setup here for Radiance, where you've got Corki, who's capable of playing defensive into the likes of Nautilus Ezreal, which means Cow can play a little bit more to the lanes. And then you look at the lanes and you say, Cinder into Azir, there's a little bit of trade back and forth between the two, but Cinder's got CC to follow up for a Lee Sin gank, for a Bard gank, something along those lines. And then even if he gets up to top side, yes, you've got Ornn who can deny the CC, but tons of damage between the Bard and the Jace, especially if Lee Sin joins them once again, and a lot of control of the river with Bard. So the idea here for Radiance is, make sure that NXI is kind of pigeonholed directly into his side of the map. Don't let him get invades off. Don't let him put those deep wards like they did last game. And maybe they'll have a lot easier time coming into mid game or into late game with some of the plays that 100 Thieves just thrived with.
Absolutely. And tons of scaling on both sides means that at least we're not going to see a game where at one certain time in the match, if you get over 35 or 40 minutes, it's just going to be, oh, well, I guess that team wins because they have an Azir or they have a Corki. There's going to be some scaling on both sides of the map. There's some team fighting tools. There's some early game tools on both sides. So I'm super excited to watch this match. Excuse me. Potential last game for Radiance. They are on the verge of getting swept 0-3 against a team that just swapped out their jungle and top laner. So I think this is going to be, this is do or die. You have a good comp. You have a lot of options. You really need to step it up and show us that you can hang with the best of the best.
And funny enough, like, if you look at this, I think this is one of the better options into late game if you don't have that kind of pure frontline or pure engage, where you've got, Jace is good range, Syndra's good range, Corki's good range, and Lee Sin threatens to kick out anybody who comes in. Bard has a really good ultimate to set up for plays if you want to set up Syndra stun or anything of the sort to generate that. And on the opposite side, Graves is respectively low range. Nautilus is, he gets tanky, but not super tanky. So your front line isn't going to be precisely there. And the only real snap engage you have is Copy going in. I think Copy's actual ultimate and using it to break apart a fight coming through from Radiance is going to be one of the most important engage tools coming through from 100 Thieves. And if they don't find that consistently, or if you've got, Lee Sin kicks ready, Syndra ready with the E, there could be some disruption here. I actually think Radiance's chance in terms of compositional strength and what they bring to the table is pretty good into what 100 Thieves has put together here.
Well, draft aside, my eyes are always going to be on the junglers. I love watching how these players play. I'm sure 100 Thieves is super happy with how NXI has been working with them. And us here at Upsurge are super happy to be working with the Unified Esports Association. They're a Kansas-based company that oversees multiple products that specialize and operate as a dynamic pipeline within the esports industry. They provide shared experiences that directly serve the collegiate, the youth, the hobbyists, and the amateur video game players at every single stage. They started as a small student group out of Wichita State University and have grown to be a veteran organizer to tournaments and events throughout the United States. They host tons of tournaments for games like League of Legends, Rocket League, and Overwatch. If you want some more info, go check them out over at uea.gg. But with that, we're going to go into a short break as we get ready for Game 3 of 100 Thieves vs. Radiance. Don't go
You just walk right out the door. Don't wanna do this anymore. Now I'm lost without you. You drive me crazy out my mind. How'd you do this every time? Now I'm lost without you. Used to be the one I talk to when I'm sad. Can't you see now tainted love is all we have? Our issues run so deep. Now when I try to sleep I feel so bad. I should leave, and by the time it's done I'll be gone. So distant when you're home, always hanging by your phone. Do I even know you? And I get paranoid sometimes, 'cause I know that you ain't mine, and I'm lost without you. Used to be the one I asleep, I feel so bad. I should leave, and by the time it's done, I'll be gone.
Welcome back, everybody, to what could be the very last game in this series. Unless Radiance has something to say about it, they've drafted themselves a very great comp. And going up against 100 Thieves, they're down 2 games. But now, with Avi on the Lee Sin, Andy Bendy pulling out the bot lane Corki, they are putting everything they have into this one. Auto use the hook. Cow walked in anyway. The hook was able to get him there faster than he expected, and that's first blood over to Fallen Bandit.
Even worse, like, all Cal has to do is leave the base on time, and he's going to be able to spot that out, except maybe the Nautilus hook. But even if he gets hit by it, there isn't really follow-up CC to talk about outside of the thing. So you can maybe flash away and force a flash or something else. But Cal got there so late that he ends up not even seeing them enter that brush before they end up getting there. Really unfortunate for Cal, getting a little bit late and getting very hard punished for it.
Cal has just been the subject of level 1 bullying from 100 Thieves. Every single time they level 1 invade and they're able to find Cal off some sort of late rotate, or he's window shopping, or something's going on. At this point, you just gotta tell the guy, like, hey, sit in a bush and just don't move. Like, just watch for the enemies. Because that's twice now that he's given over, an early game advantage over to his opponent. At least, thankfully, this time it's over to an Ornn. But that could have very easily gone over to the Ezreal or the Azir.
And even better, also, he doesn't lose a summoner spell for it. Last game with the Blitzcrank, losing that flash is basically a death sentence, unfortunately. Switch that summoner spell or that ability name with Threshes because of just how many times he got picked off with it. But in this game, doesn't burn the summoner spell. Does save a kill, of course, over to Ornn, as you alluded to, but nothing really.
Ooh, Avi getting aggressive here in the jungle. Dashes over the Q. Misses the smite. There's the level 2 for him, and now he's going to try to get out. He has 1v2, though. Oh, he goes in! He's able to find it. NXI, he flashes over the wall, and Fallen Bandit is able to pick up his second of the game. NXI living with slivers.
Okay, so Avi, first things first, I love that the mitts are off, man. He is taking the fight directly to NXI, forced out the health bar, forced out the flash that happens again. Okay, bottom side, yet another play.
One more auto will do it. Andy Bendy auto's going to flash forward to take care of it as Jan is working on wailing down Cow. That is a 2v2 double kill. 3 summoners burnt there on the bottom side. Cow actually had flash there at the end. Maybe he's... I don't know. But Young in the mid lane is getting wailed on by Copy. But what a start already to this game 3. It feels like 100 Thieves are only getting better.
If this isn't the definition of a vibe check by 100 Thieves, I really don't know how else to define the word. Because seriously, I mean, outside of Avi, who obviously he went for the exact opposite play into the likes of 100 Thieves for NXI and got actually a reasonable amount for it. But that bottom lane, man, I mean, already Cal has died to a level 1 invade, and then somehow they lose to a level 2 all-in against the Ezreal Nautilus. It's not a terrible all-in. When you have things like Valkyrie, potentially, the Q from the Bard, you have the Shrines from Bard, there's so many tools to potentially just get away. I'm really lost as to how they got such a great engage on 100 Thieves that led to the death of both bot laners.
Yeah, I am as well. And now Fallen Bandit, 2-0, is able to buy a lot of extra stats in this lane. You can see the health crystal plus the cloth armor and inventory just means that those early poking down from all the auto attacks and Qs from Jace aren't really going to be felt as much.
They will not. And of course, after that initial play, it comes through. Oh, really good hook.
Oh, wow. Jan has already used his arcane shift, but I think Otto might just have enough damage on his own. He is obliterating them. Avi has wrapped his way around into the brush. They don't know he's here. He dashes forward. He's going to go onto Otto, but a hook again onto Andy. One more auto attack will take down Cow and a flash away from the Cosmic Binding. Jan, that was flashy.
There's a perfect situation to use that joke, and I appreciate it highly because, as you said, that flash at the very last second to avoid the bar Q would have almost definitely been his undoing. Even with the flash afterwards, I think potentially Avi could follow that up with a Sonic Wave, but unfortunately, that flash completely negates that Q and does get him the kill yet again. 2-0 and 2, and a CS advantage here for the Ezreal in the laning phase. Not at all how I expected the early game to go. I do like Avi is staying aggressive, but so far, kind of disastrous from the likes of Radiance.
Engo not having a good time up here whatsoever. I mean, to be fair, he is up against the tank, bruiser, mage, assassin, marksman, whatever Ornn is. But 2-0-0 on Fallen Bandit. He's down about 6 CS, but he has a big wave crashing into him. And this is twice now that we've seen Radiance go for this Jace that has really not worked out at all for them. Avi v NXI round 2 fight. Engo gonna come in to try to make it a 2v1. They do finally take down the jungler, but what can Fallen Bandit do to take? Where did Auto come from? Hang on. Wait.
He walked all the way up from bottom lane, wrapped all the way out and around the red buff, around the crook pit to find the deepest flank I think I've ever seen out of a level 6 Nautilus in my entire career in this game. That was
I'm not gonna lie, because he came from that angle, I thought he was on Radiance's team. I'm thinking, oh, their support's coming, they've got this, their Nautilus is here. And I'm like, wait, Auto, that's you! Oh, what is going on right now? 100 Thieves? It almost feels like the first 2 games were just warm-up. They're now out in force here in game number 3. And Fallen Bandit, he's just gonna ult, try to clear the wave. No, actually, he's just gonna ult and go, and then go in.
I think he loses.
I don't know about this one.
I don't know.
He does have the side step.
A TP's coming through. Oh god!
He has so much armor. There's no way, right? Avi just has to land the Sonic Strike. They do get the shutdown eventually. And Kavi will just back up to pick up the arm. I am actually crying right now. There are tears on my face.
You talk about, okay, so Otto gets to make that deep play because Yeon's advantage, and then the fact that he's Ezreal into a lane that doesn't have the best setup outside of the Bard ultimate, which isn't even close to happening. Topside play comes through. Thankfully, they didn't get the kill. I was really worried Fallen Bandit was going to find a way to straight onto Engo. But the double TP out of mid lane, I think really smart from Copy because it forced Young Mid to come up because it would have been a trade kill. And that actually gives free space for NXI to come and get the Dragon. So now your bot side priority, where the Bard was, or my apologies, the Nautilus was top and roamed back down to bottom lane, combined with Yeon's strength and the play happening topside, frees up NXI to run the map once again on this grid.
I just can't get the image out of my head. No, that was definitely agree with all of that. You see, NXI. Yeah, let's look at a replay from that. That is what I want to see more than anything.
So Engo, obviously, he dodges out on the likes of this ultimate, and then, of course, he Qs in, which gets him out of the E, which was huge. Now, Engo has no ability to hit him right here, misses the Shock Blast, so now he's out of cooldowns, and his auto attacks might not be enough. Thankfully, Avi is here to be able to save the day at least a little bit, put a little bit of damage into Fallen Bandit. I was worried this Bellows Breath and an auto would be enough to bring down Engo. Thankfully, it was not, though.
All right, well, now flashback to the present, and at least Engo was able to pick up that kill with the shutdown, so he's actually going to be feeling a lot better in this lane. Previously, it was an Ornn that got a lot of influx of gold, some early armor means that this Jace that's supposed to be there to win the matchup is now effectively useless, but with a pickaxe and inventory now, starting to get some mana, he's at least able to hold his own.
That he is. And I honestly, sometimes, even though it's not the best for the laning phase, lethality helps quite a bit. Ooh, Cow actually finds auto copy and NXI. They're moving for the Rift Herald here because, again, Yeon is perfectly fine on bottom side, but finally, Cow actually matches that roaming pressure. This is what I wanted to see from Cow through the whole series, was to get him out on the map and help out. So now it's a 4v4 on top side, a lot less pressure for this Rift Herald here for 100 Thieves.
With the Rift Herald spawned, I don't see a whole lot that Radiance will be able to do to actually contest this one. Matt, definitely some good leads for 100 Thieves so far.
And we see, actually, Engo continues to get pushed in. This is my problem with like the Monomune Jace, especially into somebody like Ornn. You get free scaling for the most part because your lane isn't terrible. But the problem is you don't have the wave clear to match him some of the time, and this is kind of the case where Ornn now has ability to roam out of lane, come into the river, and take priority there over top of Go. If he's got lethality, he does clear out rather nicely with some of the minions. He clears out minion waves, has that wave clear a lot better than what you would have with the Monomune, the scaling build. And while your late game damage is mildly hampered, I think it's a lot more important in this particular game to have the river pressure. They've got all 4 members here, disbursement from 100 Thieves, so Rift Herald is going to go into the pocket to raid.
Yeah, I am a little surprised that Radiance actually committed to go for this one. Is Young has not backed yet, or hasn't backed in quite a while. He was sitting low mana, just the 2 amplifying tomes, but spotting out a couple of key members from 100 Thieves and realizing that they had a window to walk in and grab an objective for free. It's very important. They're going to have now the chance to get some gold back into their pockets, and they really need it right now. 2,000 gold down at just 10 minutes, and the entire squad just doing amazing things.
And almost all of this lead is purely focused into the bottom side. About 1,800 amount of this gold lead for Yon and auto attack or auto in this bottom lane. And that's the advantage you've got. The Corki lane isn't working, I think, to the level that they wanted it to. It does still match scaling. It does still have some pressure in team fights. It does still have good wave clear. But the advantage gained by Yon early on in the game and the roaming from auto has made it difficult to punish that laning phase in any meaningful way. And now the Corki sitting down about 1,100 gold, even Cow sitting down a little bit of gold, is kind of fearful. That Avi does still have an advantage, however, in the jungle, has the Rift Herald. Maybe this is the play you need to make. Let Avi kind of run around the map with Cow, find a place to put some pressure on, drop this Rift Herald, and get the gold back. Try to find maybe first tower off the back.
And there's obviously a couple options, 3 exactly, to where you could drop this Rift Herald. Where would you want them to place it? Because I'm looking at this bottom lane. Try to get a bit of an influx of cash into your Corki that has been falling behind.
I agree. I think the Corki definitely needs to be there for the taking of the tower. I actually think your best opportunity might be mid lane, because Copy, his damage is, it's really heavy base. He goes AP heavy because, of course, he has the Arcane Comet. It's not unexpected with this particular build path, but I think he's the most susceptible to a combination gank between Young Mid and Avi, and I would like to see them try to take advantage of that combo CC and the damage to kill the Azir and then siege down mid tower, rather than attempting a play bottom side against a Nautilus Ezreal, which is not likely to go in their favor.
Avi has found the Fallen Bandit Assassin in the jungle. Loses about half of his health as payment for checking the brush, and it's going to go on his merry way to pick up that scuttle. Fallen Bandit now with the Sunfire Cape completed, just 12 minutes in, is feeling extremely comfortable in this lane. He can take most of the poke. They're going to try to dive him anyway. He has the ultimate and the flash, but the damage might be there.
No.
The slow, though, is going to cause Engo to go down. A 1-for-1 trade is exactly what he was hoping for.
Oh, a nice little trade on the anti-bait. Oh my goodness, you're kidding me.
Auto, how are you getting here? He once again wraps in behind the turret. And a great ultimate from Cow is going to save his ADC, but he will pay the price instead. Now Copy going for the Shurima shuffle onto Young. Good Scout of the Week's going to buy him some space, and meanwhile, Avi is busy taking down that first turret in the top half of the map. Should be soon answered by 100 Thieves.
Over the course of this play, it's really strange to see the kind of system of events, because Radiance says, okay, we're going to handshake Dragon for topside pressure, potentially look for the dive on a Fallen Maiden. Even if they don't trade kills, which they did into Go, they don't have priority on their bottom side jungle or their blue side jungle with any warding whatsoever. You see that right now. They're just now clearing out wards, which is what allowed Auto to wrap around. And this is a Corki who has Valkyrie, yes, but right now being 2 levels down and a ridiculous amount of gold down on the Ezreal means he's behind in itemization, behind in damage, and that tower had already sustained a ridiculous amount of pressure from everything that had happened during the laning phase. You can't leave a weak point open like that with that warding pressure on bottom side and then try to make a cross-map play, especially when you end up trading kills instead of getting one purely.
Well, they now have swapped Engo down to the bottom side to collect that farm as it pushes into the tier 2 turret, knowing that there is no longer the protection for Andy Benny. And, like, with 2 turrets of protection is not enough to save you from Auto. 1 is not going to do. This man is honestly just, it's been crazy how creative his pathing has been and how he's been able to wrap around behind his enemies. You usually look for that kind of stuff out of the junglers, looking to avoid vision and getting creative gank angles, but It's been Auto this time around. Now, Copy looking for the Shurima shuffle back. Auto's going to take up the turret, but that's a lot of damage he's taking. He's going to go golden to drop the aggro, and Engo will go down. Avi's going to be next. He tries to kick back to no avail. Fallen Bandit wins a 1v1, and everything's coming up 100 Thieves right now. NXI does go down, but Yawn is getting some backup to assist him. Young, the last remaining member, we might be looking down a 15-minute ace. Unless Young can escape from here. The Auto ultimate is going to knock him up. The flash forward from Copy. Does he have the damage? Yawn, one arcane shift plus Mystic Shot would do it. No. Young finally gets the movement speed burst he needs.
A little bit outside. Yeah, a little bit outside the range. Okay, Engo comes in, almost gets a good shot. Will have to find a couple of kills as well, but it's yeah, okay, almost finds the shot at the end of that one. But again, 100 Thieves just expressing their control of the map in every single game. They have been the ones pushing vision into the opposing jungle and playing to that so well. You've now seen twice on the blue side where everything is humongous. We're actually going to get a replay of the top lane here and see somehow how that 1v1 happened between Andy Benny and Falling Bandit. And Andy Benny's just too far up. He uses the Valkyrie, can't get out of range. The ultimate's going to be able to knock him up, and that brittle proc, it just does so much damage. Andy, what are you doing that far up? I know maybe the fight was being baited to bot side to try to pull the double for Fallen Bandit, but you never win that one.
Yeah, definitely not. Not against an Ornn that's 2 levels up, has all that armor, has already got some match resist under his belt, and yeah. I mean, it's Ornn at the end of the day. They do find a good chunk onto Auto. He's going to be walking into this one about half HP. They also burn his stone plate, so he'll be considerably less tanky if they decide to contest for this Herald. Fallen Bandit does have teleport to join as well, but no ultimate for about 10 seconds. It doesn't seem like 100 Thieves want to contest this one. They're just going to run straight down mid lane and try to get a turret for themselves instead.
And right now, like, 100 Thieves is in a great position. I do want them to realize at the moment that Yawn is pretty much all of their advantage. Everybody else across it, there's a little bit of advantage for Ornn, but outside of that, for the most part, they're actually losing pretty much everywhere else. If Yawn is not involved in a fight, it's kind of hard to make it work. Now, Copy and NXI had made a play happen on bottom, or I think it was Auto actually made a play happen on bottom side earlier, but that was due to chain CC onto Engo. Don't expect that to come through. I want to see them play really heavily around the Ezreal. If you want to play to a side of a map, have Yawn there ahead of time, or have him control mid lane to let him roam to the objectives that are going to be available on the map. 2 dragons here for 100 Thieves means they really want this next strike to force fights when this Ezreal is going to be hitting that 2.5 item power spike with Trinity Force and Mana Munich.
Love that Yawn's getting his time in the spotlight in this game number 3. We've seen all the members of 100 Thieves really step up during this series. Whether it was Copy's Twisted Fate, NXI's Nidalee, Fallen Bandit's Ornn, or Yawn's Ezreal now. Herald is going to be popped in the mid lane, but I don't even know if it'll get the charge off. That one was just a bait so that Radiance could rotate over to the Dragon. But Fallen Bandit's behind them, and he has ultimates, so
Really
this
nice
one is
draw.
looking scary for them. They are able to chunk out Auto once again, popping his stone plate. No flank has come through quite yet, but there is still the opportunity. Fallen Bandit now spotting out Avi, starting the Drake. Instantly takes half of his HP. Might just solo out himself. They're going to turn around onto Cow now. Great door ultimate to stop 100 Thieves in their tracks. Avi finds the Q onto Auto to finish him off. A sniper shot into the back line. But Radiance don't have a lot left in the tank. There's not a lot of engage left for 100 Thieves, though. This is looking like it might be a 50-50 to flash forward onto Yawn. He gets shut down from the Syndra ultimate. Copy's going to take down Engo as well. Avi gets trapped behind the wall as NXI grabs the double. And with no jungler left, see if NXI can just bob and weave his way to victory. The health bar is not there for the jungler of 100 Thieves next. And he will have to retreat after a very scrappy and, at the end of it all, more or less even fight around the dragon.
was, I think everything said and done, it ended up being a 3-for-3 or a 3-for-2. I think it was ending up being a 3-for-3 on both sides, and it was huge. The initial play from Cal was amazing to stop that just initial forward movement after the portal comes through was big, but then afterwards his flash Q was also amazing. Now the problem is Andy Bendy Young Mid, they had the damage to definitely take the dragon, but with NXI's smite up combined with Auto coming back from after having been killed, there's way too much pressure on the map. Now Cal is here, TP is coming in, and this is a really bad situation. You got to get out of this.
Yeah, TP is coming in. It's already 100 Thieves with the dragon. We'll see if they can actually get out of this one. Auto is maybe gonna fall. He just barely does. And Andy Bendy finishes that one out. And now Radiance are gonna head straight to that mid lane, try to grab a turret before 100 Thieves can set themselves back up. Fallen Bandit, the one member to defend, but you may be an... Oh, he actually gets out. Never mind. I won't even say that. Great ultimate that goes to jury. This is a disaster for Radiance. They thought it was a 1v4, but they're losing everything. Yawn Arcane shifts forward aggressively. Avi tries to punish him, but he might go down for it. If Yawn can Arcane shift forward fast enough, a good flash from Avi to keep himself safe. Yawn? Stop taking turret. Oh, ooh, he goes really low there as he takes 2 extra turret shots. But 100 Thieves, it looked like Fallen Bandit was dead to rights. Never count an Ornn out of the game. And they're able to turn it around.
Not at all. Big itemization coming through, really tanky. Not to mention, I mean, Yawn is still available for the fight. He's exceptionally strong. Not to mention, Copy is getting to that point as well. I was really afraid because slowly 100 Thieves had handed a bit of gold back to Andy Bendy, and that's a legitimate late game threat you have to be afraid of, especially with how Young Mid was handling the game. But I mean, they dove too far, looking for the kill on Fauna Bandit just to siege up on this mid tower. Cal provided a little bit of a flank angle, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But mostly, this was just a pure gold check coming in from the likes of Yeon, from the likes of Copy, and that CC to bounce around a bunch of members under tower between Fallen Bandit and Copy was humongous to set the stage for the cleanup from Yeon.
They are now on the table. It's going to be the next big objective both these teams have their eyes on. Ooh, Yawn and Avi, a little standoff there. So Avi has wrapped around the ward hop in. He kicks away Avi, but he decides against going in. A little, you could see the Lee syndrome in his eyes. He wanted to go in on that. You don't often find that perfect setup onto Yawn, but he had no backup and smartly decided to disengage. We have a replay to look at. Rebel, walk us through it.
Yeah, we get to see that bot lane dive, and you're going to see, of course, Cal getting on the back, but huge ultimate from Copy. Just pushes multiple members too far into the tower, and Avi has to get out, be able to ward hop, and all of their damage slowly gets whittled down from the space that has now been bought. And again, Yawn is still available. Now, I was really afraid because Avi, if you watch the cooldown timer on his ultimate, it comes back up about right here, but he had to burn his flash. If he has flash kick, I do think he's able to actually kill Yawn in a very easy fashion, but because he burns it defensively to get it away, he's going to be able to make that. He isn't able to make that happen.
Radiance sitting 4,000 gold down at this point. And although they do have some scaling on their side with the Corki and with the Syndra, it is paling in comparison to what 100 Thieves has. Just with the Ornn being able to buff them all up. What do they have to do? Because obviously they need to make a change. If they don't claw their way back into this game now, it's series over for them. It's season over. How are they going to do it?
Really want to see them put a lot of potential pick pressure here into the hands of Avi and into Cal. I really think the Bard ultimate, the Bard Q, combined with the kick coming in from the likes of Avi is enough to pull somebody out. If you get Copy, if you get Yawn, if you get Fallen Bandit, if you get any member of this team, there is a ton taken out of the team fight. Copy has a lot of damage, but also has the Emperor's Divide for the big team fight. You know, NXI, he's got the Smite for the fight if you pick him. And, you know, Fallen Bandit, he's your front line, he's your main source of engage. If he's gone, that's big too. And Yawn is the biggest source of damage. If you get any of them, this becomes a much easier game to play.
Only he is able to interrupt Fallen Bandit as he goes for the ultimate there, then go chasing down, but ooh, he loses so much HP. Yawn getting caught though could be huge. Cal the flash forward so he can find the angle on the binding. That was beautiful. Mwah, mwah. Good job, Cal. He's able to make up for some questionable engages earlier on in this game, but hey, if the one binding that counts, as long as you hit that one,
That it does. They get the pick onto Yon. It's not quite late enough to make a difference for this dragon, but at minimum, they're going to be able to capture bottom side river. I do think the resource allotment potentially to grab that. I mean, you're talking 3 of their ultimates: the dragon kick, the ultimate from Cinder, the unleashed power, and then of course the tempered fate coming through from Bard, all needed just to kill Yeon, who did not have flash. He's going to have flash for the NSX fight, so you got to almost do it again. I'm really afraid because they will be able to step into river. I don't want to see Radiance overcommit to this fight. If they overcommit to take away Cloud Drake against a team that, they're much less ult focused than most teams, I think that would be trouble. I'd rather see them give this away than fight unnecessarily and lose the game off the bat.
Well, y'all now back out on the field. 100 Thieves have cleared out most of the division that Radiance did put out. You do see Copy on the flank. He's been so good with these multi-man Shurima shuffles. He's looking for another. He finds Young, splits up the team, but the rest of the squad is focusing down the objective. Avi is going to fail at stealing that one away. You can't steal from the Thieves, and now Copy and Yon have just wrapped around, and it's all but over for Radiance. They do find one in return, but it's the near perfect ace for 100 Thieves. They get the soul, they get the fight, and they're headed straight to Baron.
And the in-gauge this early in the game, like, if this is a normal strength Ezreal, normal itemization Ezreal, this is at least manageable from the side of Radiance, but Yeon got accelerated so fast in the early game. There is no response to Fallen Bandit and Copy and Auto just throwing their bodies into this team. All they have to do is CC and let NXI, my apologies, and Yeon just throw damage in. That's all they have to do. Copy doesn't even have to auto attack if he doesn't want, because he doesn't need to, because the damage is going to be there no matter what from the team. And you see once again, the pincer move from Copy forced a lot of reaction out of much of Radiance, and was without backup, loses the dragon, and they lose the fight after.
Auto looking to zone off Avi, might have been caught out though. Oh my goodness, Yon does so much damage. Ooh, Air King's forward a little bit too aggressively, has to flash away. But the damage, you said it, it's there. All you gotta do is lock them down, set them up so Yon can take them out. And Avi will stealthily recall back to base, and the brush just inches away from the enemy team. Oh, Young gets caught defending that tier 2, will go down, and is just the jungler now. I'm Avi on the Lee Sin, defending against a 5-man Baroned up 100 Thieves.
We're going to see the play come in as they're going to slowly collapse his base, and this has got to be it for them. They're going to be able to get the Azir to come out. They're going to be able to siege up on this tower. Even if this isn't the direct win, they've certainly done the damage necessary to take this fight.
And they're going in for it. Fallen Bandit tanking it up. One Nexus turret remaining. We're on the verge of the 3-0 sweep, and it seems like 100 Thieves are going to have it. They took out Tenacity. They took out Kenvi, but they are going to walk away from the Nexus. Come on, guys. I was setting that one up so well. I've been waiting so long. But we get more of this wonderful game to experience, so aren't we all winners here?
That we are. Everybody gets a nice little chance to win. We get a chance to gawk at this team a little bit more as they've flexed across the board a little bit. As you said, I think earlier in just this game alone, in terms of the pressure brought out by every individual player, NXI has had a monstrous performance in 3 games. Copy in game 1 and a bit in game 2 really showed just how powerful he could be. Yon in game 3 taking the game in his own hands and just bodying fools, especially into Andy, Bendy, and Cal. One of the better bot lanes that we've got in SGC against Yon and Otto. Wouldn't be considered the most aggressive bot lane. Got this massive advantage and just dominating across.
And it's situations like these where a team can swap out players and still continue their dominance against these top tier opponents, where I really have to give so much credit to the coaches and just the support staff of the organization. Everybody knows how great of an org 100 Thieves is, but the fact that they're clearly doing something that is working in the amateur scene is a godsend. Great Ornhorn is able to find 2, and Andy Bendy is gone. This is surely going to be it. NXI gonna end it with a double kill. Kenvi Who, as the new 100 Thieves jungler, comes to town, and they smash Radiance in a 3-0 sweep. They'll pad their stats just a little bit more as they look for Engo in the fountain. That's all she wrote. folks, 100
in
Thieves
his
will be
first
going
game
on to
this
the
year. He
finals
came in
to
as this
face Anu.
unknown entity. We had no clue what we were getting into with his jungling style. We knew the Nuisin and the Nidalee were going to be up there, and this man, he pops off every game. Even worse, Avi wasn't playing poorly. I thought Avi had a damn good series, all things said and done. And NXI, yeah, maybe he wasn't the guy that was just running the table for every single game, but his performance was right up there with Avi.
I never looked at NXI this series and said, wow, he screwed up there. And like, wow, he just cost his team a lot. Like, he was not only solid in all the small decisions that he made, his pathing, the way he, prioritized resources around his lane, the way he fought team fights, but he also just took that and took it to another level. He was able to gain resources for his team so consistently. And even when he wasn't the one actually pulling the trigger, he was still assisting his team in so many ways. I'm blown away by NXI, what 100 Thieves have been able to do, bringing him in. Blown away by Fallen Bandit, who came in to replace Tenacity. The fact that these two, in such a short period of time, were able to gel with their team so incredibly well. They take down Radiance, who don't let the scoreline fool you. Radiance is an incredibly good team. We spent a lot of time hyping up Andy, Bendy, and Cow, and honestly, they got bodied this series.
Oh, I feel for Cal in so many ways, man. Pantheon game
0-10
one,
in
disaster. Game two, the Nautilus actually wasn't bad. We talked about the hooks that he
Yeah.
got to save himself. And then in game three, 10 deaths on the Bard. Ridiculous kind of scorelines coming in from a guy a lot of people consider to be one of the better supports, one of the cleaner supports. He's a very good player. I've seen him had amazing performances across all things, and he just looks shook in this series. I don't know how, but Yon and Otto had the bot lane, the one real rock solid point for Radiance pretty much all season, and their number was had all series long.
It definitely was. Congratulations to 100 Thieves next on an incredible performance that I'm sure will have the entire amateur community talking for weeks to come. We cannot wait to see them uh, match up against a new esports. But before we do anything else, that last Baron fight in that game, I want to take a look at it one more time.
I want you to look at the positioning of Yon because he's so far ahead. He's able to do anything you want. The Ornn ultimate comes in, barely doesn't get stopped by Cal, by the way, but Yon is just able to free fire. He goes forward anytime he wants. He jumps the wall. One time he flashed backwards because he was a little bit afraid, but again, the free space owned by Yon and NXI and the rest of his team showed not just the strength of their carries, but it showed the strength of their setup too. Fallen Bandit, he comes in as a guy, he was their coach for the whole season. He hasn't been playing, and he just fit in seamlessly somehow with 100 Thieves as well as one of these members that was setting up the plays for the rest of their team. I love the way that the kind of more experienced members in Fallen Bandit, Copy, and Otto are setting up the newer guys in Yon and NXI to really put on their carry pants and to do the things that they were brought in to do.
All right, now Rebel, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's the question on everybody's mind. It's the question no caster will want to answer at this early on. NXI in for Kenvi, upgrade or downgrade?
Oh no, you cannot give me that question at the. Okay,
A little bit
let
too
me.
early to tell, maybe.
Kenvi is a different breed. There's a reason why he went to the top level. He is a man, he's a jungler, he's a beast, and there's a reason why he's the Terminator, okay? He just dominates games top to bottom, and he had the most control of any jungler. NXI came into the first series, I think maybe a little bit of underestimation from Radiance, really good game plan from 100 Thieves. I'm tentative to say that he is, again, one of the better junglers we've seen. I want to see performances against the likes of Anu, especially in the final next week. Maryville come that time, and a couple of the other top teams, another couple top junglers. But I am very optimistic about the outlook for this team with NXI in the jungle.
Still has a lot to prove, but first impressions are everything, and NXI has made one hell of a debut. You can be sure that he's going to have a lot of eyes on him going forward, not just from the fans, but from some other people as well. I can't wait to see this team match up against the new esports in the finals when you have NXI going up against the likes of Mike Young, one of the best junglers to ever grace amateur, and has made his debut in the LCS as well, even going as far as going to Worlds. But that is going to wrap it up for us here at Upsurge. Make sure you guys tune in to that final matchup, the finals between 100 Thieves next and a new esports. And thank you so much for tuning in here today. Make sure you follow Upsurge on Twitter, Twitch. You go to their website, their YouTube's up there. We got so much content for you guys, and you're going to love every second of it. But for tonight, I'm Caster Audio. I've been joined by Rebel Fox. We're gonna say goodnight.